Welcome to Twisted Tragedies, where we follow all the twists and turns. I'm your fearless leader, Elise. And hey, the Canton Select Board meeting was today. That was an interesting Select Board meeting, to say the very least. I was like, hey, what just happened and why did it happen? I'm totally and utterly confused as to what happened in that meeting. Because I thought each person got 3 minutes, right? Like I at least thought it was 3 minutes, but apparently it was not, because they let everybody just sort of talk today. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. Cool. All right then. And there was like some clappage. Like, okay, cool clappage. Like, sure. But the McCabe's were there, and I'm not actually sure who the woman was that was made that statement. I am not actually sure who the hell she was, honestly. But basically what she said was that she supports the police, which I think she got twisted to say the fact that like other people don't support the police. They do. They support the police. And people in Canton support their local police. They want an audit. I mean, it's not hard. Like, I mean, what's wrong with an audit? It's not, I mean, they're the police. Like, they want to know what their police station is doing. I think, there was a lot of questions surrounding this case. There's a lot of questions sort of like in the Craig Casey case, like, why didn't you find him sooner? Why did a neighbor find him? Like, there was a lot. Like, she's Jen McCabe's blood sister. Okay, thank you, Tammy. Yeah, I didn't know who she was. I wasn't too sure who exactly she was, to be honest. I've never seen her before, so I was just like, I'm not really sure who she is. But I figured she was either related to or knew them in some way, shape, or form. But thank you for that, because I wasn't sure who she was. But I guess she's Jen McCabe's blood sister. That's interesting. Well, I mean, that's okay. But I mean, then Rita spoke. Rita's always a powerful speaker. Always. And she always articulates very well. And she made it clear, like, no, we support our police. We just want accountability. And I was waiting for them to be like, 3 minutes is up, Rita. Like, they usually do, I think it's 5 speakers, 3 minutes. Like, the only thing that bugs me is like, normally they do this thing where if you get past the 3-minute mark, like they couldn't let poor Tara Schumann get past that friggin' 3-minute mark, not even by 1 second. They're screaming, oh, 3 minutes, you gotta stop. To poor Tara Schumann while she's pouring her heart out at the podium, right? But when it comes to this, you just let them keep going and going because the Alberts and McCabe's are there. I'm confused. Like, I mean, it should be the same rules, right? Like, same rules no matter what. This isn't the special meeting. The special meeting is November 20th. So why were people allowed to go over 3 minutes? Because any other meeting, they would have been screaming that it was 3 minutes was up, 3 minutes is up, and it doesn't matter who talks. So I think that's going to sort of backfire a little in their faces, because you can't, throw 3 minutes in everyone else's face. But then when the Alberts and McCabe's are there, say the 3 minutes doesn't apply. Like, you know what I mean? They're not calling people on 3 minutes. To be fair, they did say, oh, if anybody else wants to speak, but like, whenever do you do that? Even if there's 5 other people in line, normally you're like, all right, ready to adjourn. Okay, bye, done. We're done with this now. Like, so I found that quite interesting, honestly. I was like, you probably should stick with the 3 minutes then, no matter who's there, what the narrative is, because you can't say every other select board meeting that it's really 5 speakers for 3 minutes and the 6th person can't speak because you've run out of time. And then this meeting specifically not give a time limit. Like, you're just letting people go. Although I did think they were going to like cut poor Rita off and be like, you've done 3 minutes, Rita, you're done. Like, I was waiting for that to happen, although it did not. Also, there was clap. Did anybody else see? Am I seeing things? Denise Galvin, that's her name. Oh, okay, that's who that is. Yeah, I've heard the name, never actually seen the person. Makes sense. Yeah, I did not know who she was specifically. But that's okay. But yeah, I've heard her name. I just have never actually seen her before, Denise Galvin. But I mean, that was her, I guess. So, yeah, I was like, did anybody else see the clappage happening in the from the select board themselves? Like, I'm like, that doesn't normally happen. I've never seen it happen. I don't know what you guys. I never seen it happen. That was weird. It was strange. I was like, okay, that's cool. What the hell? Like, not doing the 3-minute timer. Select board meeting members are clapping. Hey, what just happened? Yeah, howling. Like, what? Like, I mean, there's clapping from, like, the audience and, whatever. But, like, pretty sure I saw one of the board members. And I'm like, that just happened. That doesn't really happen. I mean, you can't have rules every other meeting and then, like, they get thrown out of the window for this one, because that's not very, like, that's going to work very. Why do you think they want a special meeting? Why do you think the people of Canton want a special meeting? I mean, you can't do that, dude. That's not a thing. You can't do that. You really can't do that. Like, you got to stick to the whole, 3-minute time limit and only 5 speakers. And I think it's like 15 minutes, like, okay, cool. Then you need to stick to that. Like, but they didn't stick to that. Yeah, it just made no sense. Made no sense. I'm like, okay, cool. You did, right? Yes. I knew I wasn't seeing things. I knew I couldn't possibly be seeing things. Like, there's no way. I knew I saw that. I absolutely saw that. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, what is happening right now? Like, what? Why didn't clap any other meeting? Like, okay, cool. But, like, maybe, just maybe, like, you can't cut people off like Tara Schumann at 3 minutes, okay? And then in a different meeting, because certain people show up, say, you don't get 3 minutes. Like, you can't do that, dude. That's not a thing. Like, it's not a thing. It just looks bad. Like, regardless of who likes who, or, you got to stick with the same rules, dude. Like, it doesn't matter who's there. If you're going to stick to the 3-minute rule and cut off someone like Tara Schumann, who's literally clearly pouring her heart out and clearly she's upset and afraid, then you kind of got to do it for everyone, dude. It just can't be like a some person thing. Like, come on, select board. Like, come on, really, though. Well, I didn't see any chicken costumes tonight or elephant costumes. I was waiting to see costumes. There was no costumes. I was like, looking around in the room, and I'm like, when they pan the camera, and I'm like, oh, are they seeing anywhere? Nope, no chickens. No chickens tonight. No elephants. I'm like, cool, great, awesome. I was hoping for a jackass this time. There was no jackass, like, unfortunately. Thought that would have been appropriate, but there was no jackass there, unfortunately. I've been waiting for new motions to come out in the case. I've been checking. Nothing yet. Nothing substantial, at least. It's been slow. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you got to remember. They got to get all the stuff tested. That takes a really long time. That's not like with how much they have, I should say. With how much stuff they have, it takes a while for it all to be tested. I mean, yeah, you can speed up something if it's like one thing and you're like, hey, I really need that. Like, can you speed that up? But again, it's got to be tested. And then if they find like certain things, they want to test it again. And like, if they don't find certain things, like, it's just a grueling process. And the prosecution has had 22 months with it. And, they set the trial for March. That means the defense doesn't get it for 22 months. Like, they need a substantial amount of time. So I suspect they will push back the trial at least a little, whether it's April or May. Like, I suspect they'll push it back a little because it's just not enough time. It's just not enough time for Karen's team to get everything tested. There's too much there to be tested and tested again. They get the infotainment system and all the car systems, basically. And now they got DNA and the glass, and then they got the tail light and John's clothes and his swabs from his persons. Swabs from his persons. They didn't say specifically what swabs from his persons. Like, they also said something about like they clipped, his right fingernail, or I can't remember if it says left hand or right hand fingernail. There's just a bunch of shit that they still need to test. And so that's going to take quite a bit of time. Quite a bit of time. So I don't think you're going to see much out of that for a while. I think the next, motions you'll see will either have to do with evidence or have to do with wanting. I mean, I think there was a November date that the judge gave for entering any more like discovery. So I don't remember what the date was, but it'd be this month. So then the next thing to do, they would argue back and forth about what they don't want included in trial. So each side would wave to the judge what they don't want and what they do want in trial. Like, oh, hey, we don't want this to be heard for this and this and this reason. Like, it's not relevant, or, whatever. Like, all the different reasons that they don't want X, Y, or Z in the trial. And like that, those are the next set of like filings after like discovery that you'll kind of see is like them arguing back and forth about like what they want and what they don't want the jury to hear, which will be interesting to see what they do want and what they don't want when it comes to the jury. I suspect, I mean, if I was the defense, I'd try to have the taillight thrown out because just of all the issues that there are with the taillight, this was a sloppy investigation. Like it was very sloppy. Like there's no word of it out. It was sloppy at best. And if you're not handling evidence correctly, if you don't have notes or you don't have, you didn't do any measuring of some of these pieces of taillight, there's 5 undocumented searches. Like that's just shoddy work. Right. And obviously the defense is going to argue like, hey, we don't even know where these pieces of taillight were, where they came from. How can we prove she's innocent with them if there was no pictures taken? There was no description even of where they were found in the yard, on the street. Like where were they? How big were they? And then these microscopic pieces of taillight in clothes that are 1/16 of an inch, which isn't actually microscopic. I think they might have a problem with that. Also, I think the biggest thing is they probably try to at least attempt to have the taillight evidence not entered for the jury. If there's questions around how it was obtained and why these searches are undocumented, like they can try. I don't know if Bev will go for it. I'm not thinking that she will. I'm also not thinking that she's letting herself off this case anytime soon. Doesn't seem like she really wants to. That's for sure. Like, all right, Bev. All right. Like, if she wanted to rotate herself out, she would have already rotated herself out on this case because she's the person who assigns all the rotations. And she hasn't done that, which tells me she's keeping herself on for the long haul. Although, at this point, if you switch judges, right, like, you have to go all over some of the stuff with the judge. I mean, yeah, it's in filings and stuff, but like the judge is going to want extra things explained to them that they weren't there for. And so I think she keeps herself on for the long haul, to be honest. Unless they file a motion with the SJC to have her tossed off, which I don't think they'd win right now. I mean, they have good grounds, but I just don't think the SJC isn't going to be inclined to be like, oh yeah, we'll throw a judge off. They protect judges quite a bit. Like desperately. Like desperately protect judges. I have a thing that I'm looking into, and it includes a lot of judges, like a lot of judges, and the government lying about a lot of money. And I mean, they don't like some of these have been filed for the judges to be taken. So here's the thing. In order for a judge to be like taken off the bench, like altogether, there needs to be something filed up with our legislature. And then they bring it out and they vote on it out of committee, basically. And then they vote, but they never bring it out of a committee. There's been, I think, 2 judges in the last maybe 8 years. And one of them, it's been refiled 3 times. And they've never voted it out of committee to actually take the judge off of the bench. Even though there's very good reason and really good evidence to do so, they won't do it. So it's like there really isn't a ton of accountability when it comes to judges, really anywhere. And that's kind of the problem, right? Like a judge shouldn't be able to decide themselves like if they should recuse or not. That should be up to some independent entity. It shouldn't be up to the judge to be like, yep, I'm going to recuse, or no, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think so. I got to do that today. Sorry. I'm not feeling like it. Like, I think that's absurd that we allow that. Like, again, that's like telling the police to investigate themselves, and look how well that works out every single day all over the country. It doesn't. It just doesn't work out all over the country every single day. It literally does not. Like, so it's like, we need a better system, or we need people to do their jobs when it comes to actually holding these judges accountable. Because then we have the judge over in, I mean, I know it's not the state, but we got the judge and the lawyers over at the Gilgo Beach murders playing fuck back and forth, like, arguing. And like, yes, the judge, it's weird that the attorneys want to stay on. It's weird the judge is acting the way the judge is acting. Like, the whole thing is a shit show. But when the judges don't get held accountable, they just think they can do whatever they want whenever they want, because there's nobody there to tell them not to, or that they can't. It's half the problem. Like, is we don't have a system in place to say this is a bad judge and that's a bad judge. Just like there would be bad cops or bad firefighters or bad coffee makers, like baristas. Like, there's literally a bad in every, career. I mean, you're not going to say every person in the police are good, or every person in the FBI are good, or every judge is good. Obviously, no, that's not true. Like, but I think it's very rare that a judge actually gets tossed and off the bench. And it shouldn't be that rare if we have judges that need to be tossed off the bench. Auntie Bev is very questionable. After the Chesna case, after this case, that shit angered me to no end. Now the Chesna family and the family of the other lady, Vera Adams, now they have to what? The family and friends of both of those entities, all of those people that passed away, now have to do this all over again? All over again. That sucks. That sucks, dude. A whole nother trial, a second trial. Like, nobody wants to, family does not want to go through a second trial. It's the last thing they want to do, is go through another trial. It's not really fair to them to have to go through another trial either, though. Like, it should be, the government did its job the first time, and then they wouldn't have to worry about going through another trial, So, it sucks, but it is what it is. Like, there's not, the only thing we can do is, start telling the people we vote in to do their damn job, or we're not going to vote them in. That's difficult because, people don't think about the repercussions unless it starts happening to them. So people don't start, saying like, wait a second, these judges need more accountability, unless all these people are being like, charged with a crime they didn't commit. Like, that's when people start noticing. That's when people get angered, and that's when people get upset. But the problem is, they get upset for a little while. Maybe they make some phone calls. Maybe they write some letters. There's not enough people, and it dies off, and then nothing happens. Well, you got to put the pressure on these people. You got to organize. You got to stick together to get these judges off. Clearly Auntie Bev was biased, at least a little, at least a little. And so I think it would have been appropriate in the beginning for someone else to say, you know what? I think you need to step out of this case, and I think we need to bring another judge in that would have been rotated in, and I think that would have been the best thing for the case. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Auntie Bev's still there. Like, she's still there. And she is not rotating herself out anytime soon. So what now? So there's nothing they can do. They literally have to just keep, like, do you guys remember when she freaked out Elizabeth Little about the chalks? Where she was like, turn it the other way. I don't want to see it. 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 Like, she bugged out about it being, and I don't even think it was turned the other way. I think she was like pulling it out of its thing to like turn it, and just had to like flip it. But I don't think it was like facing the audience at first. And then she would not see the chalk. Well, I should see it first. Like, no offense, but like, again, lady, even if you see it first, right? You're going to see it first for a whopping 3 seconds. Like, what does it matter? This is on TV. It's literally on so that everybody can watch. So does it really matter if you see it 1 second later? No, probably not really. And also, if you're going to freak out about things like chalks, maybe freak out about things like people clapping and, hooting and hollering. Like, but you don't do that either. Like, so, get a hold of your courtroom. Like, I mean, that's the problem, though. Like, I mean, then you got judges like that are clearly like they were, denying everything the defense was asking for first. Like, basically, like, nope, 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 nope. We'll take it under advisement. They love that lately. Lately, judges just love taking things under advisement. That's like their new favorite thing to do is take it under advisement. You know what you can take under advisement? One of these. Like, you take one of those under advisement, ma'am. I mean, that's stupid. Like, that's stupid. And at least when they do take it under advisement, it's not supposed to be like some long-term thing. And Bev made it a long-term thing. I think it was one, it said like 72 days. 72 days. She had one under advisement. 72 days, lady. That's a long time. 72 days. Like, there was a clerk in a court case that got in trouble for holding on to something under advice for like 45 days, I think it was. I think it was between 30 and 45 days. And there was like a case that happened because it was sort of like a precedent that like you can get in trouble for that. Like, you can't just be holding things onto things forever and ever and ever and ever and just be saying or taking it under advisement. Like 70, that's more than a month. You don't need more than that's a month and almost a month and a half. You don't need a month and a half to, 2 months and a half. You don't need to do 2 months and a half to take something under advisement. Like 60 days is 2 months. Like, that's why would you need 2 months and a half, 2.5 months? Well, it's 2 and 12 days, but you get the gist. Almost 2.5 months to decide something. Mind you, 90% of the paperwork is right in front of her, right? 90% of the paperwork was already filed before they got to the courtroom. So why, oh, why would you need 2.5 months? Why? You wouldn't. You're just sitting on it. Like, for what reason? Like, just to piss people off? Like, what would be the general purpose of that? Beats the frig out of me. Like, to be obnoxious? Like, I'm not sure what Auntie Bev's deal is, but 72 days is a long time to take something under advisement. And I guess there was one, I read in that filing that was like indefinitely or something like that. But if you let Karen argue the Rule 17 motion, which never happened, she should have been at least able to argue why they weren't having the that hearing. Like, that should have been something that was argued. She has the right to argue it. And I think that's where Bev kind of messed up without giving the defense a way to argue it. Like, but she didn't. So it is what it is. I'd like to see her take herself off the rotation, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. It keeps bugging me. Like, I know I have Tammy's comment up here on the screen about him clapping below the table. And I'm just like, when have you ever seen Chris Albert clap under the table before? Like, I get it. It's Jen McCabe's sister, but Denise, but some decorum. You don't clap any other time. Probably wouldn't have been a smart time to clap then. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Whatever. The select board meeting wasn't, crazy tonight, which was, I was expecting a little craziness, but it wasn't crazy. So that's okay. That's good. But at the same time, they sort of went over the rules that they normally do, and that's a little irky. It just irks people a little. It's not a huge deal. It's just why, if you're gonna cut people off like Tara Schumann at 3 minutes, you might want to cut everyone off at 3 minutes because it just looks bad. The optics of it are no good. Bottom line, the optics are terrible. But hey, what do I know? I don't run a select board, so anywhoodly. So I did want to go over my friend's disappearance. I'm hoping to drum up some leads on that. I'm hoping that someone from Maine in Portland decides they're going to watch a video and see this and maybe remember something. I know it was so long ago, but you never know. There's this thing called karma, and it will come for you, and even good karma. And I'm hoping that good karma comes around for Miguel, because he's been missing since 2006, September 3rd, to be exact. And that's a long time to be missing. And nobody, and it's a cold case essentially at this point, because all we know is that he left the Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club in the morning time with a gentleman and was never seen again. That's literally it. Like, there's not like a boatload. Back then, you have to remember the camera footage that they have, right? Inside that gentleman's club was like one of those smaller, it's probably, the screen was probably about this big, legitimately. And it was split into 4 sections, right? You remember the TVs that had like, when footage was like, not black and white, but like the screens were like green behind them? Those were the kind of TVs we're talking about. Like, so it was split into 4. It's a small, tiny TV screen with 4 cameras that were split. It's like the parking lot and like, whatever, 3 other places. And all you can see is like the sort of back and lower portion of these 2 people. Obviously, one being Mickey and one being whoever he left with. And he was wearing a gray and white camouflage print long sleeve shirt over a white long sleeve t-shirt and gray cargo shorts. And I'm pretty sure those gray cargo shorts had like, those, Velcro pockets on them, and sneakers. Right. And then if you're going to watch something funny, can you go there and do it? Thanks. I appreciate it. This guy, he was Spanish, which is like, part of the reason I think that he didn't get a ton of, attention on this case. Like, he wasn't a white girl, like, bottom line, like, dark hair, brown eyes, caramel complexion. He had tattoos everywhere. So like in the Charlie Project, they say like something like he has tattoos on like the right arm and what does it say? Right hand, left arm, back of his neck, and on his back. He had tattoos everywhere. That doesn't describe all his tattoos. He had a big tattoo on his back right here. And this is what like might have caught someone's eye if they saw him with like a wife beater or something on. But he had a big tattoo on his back that said, across the top of his back, that said Papi Chulo, right across the top of his back. We used to make fun of him for it all the time. Like, Mickey, you got Papi Chulo on your back, bro? Like, you're just so full of yourself. Like, but yeah, I'm Papi Chulo, man. Like, oh, you're funny now. You got jokes. That's the thing. He did have jokes. He had jokes. And he had kids. And he had a family who loved him. And he used to call his mom every day to just check in with her, even if he wasn't there. And he was with his on-again, off-again girlfriend, who was my roommate. And he was my roommate up there in Portland while she was working at a strip club. And they asked him to leave because he was like discouraging people from tipping her, and she wasn't really making money because he was like, kind of being a dick. So they asked him to leave. And he left with this unknown person. Now, the rumors were that he left with some cook from the kitchen or a sous chef from the kitchen. And the problem with strip clubs in general is that nobody uses their real name. Like, yeah, 9 out of 10 times you still got to use your ID to get the job there. But sometimes you don't. And sometimes you don't, you're just using a fake name and that's it. And everybody knows you as that fake name. And so it would be really hard to try to pin down who this guy was that he might have left with from the kitchen. It's tough because all the information I've gotten is either from people who were in the club at the time or what the media puts out there, which isn't a ton. There's not a lot. Like, it's essentially a cold case, and to be fair, about a couple months ago over the summer, they looked in a reservoir. I think it was a reservoir, just a mile or two. It was a couple miles from where Platinum Plus used to be, because apparently it's not there anymore. Apparently it's defunct. That's not what it is. It used to be Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club, and believe it or not, there was a topless donut shop that was connected to it that opened. The club closed at 6 a.m. and then the donut shop would open at 6 a.m. and that apparently is gone now. So I guess it used to be another club after that, and then I don't know what it is now. But a couple months when they checked that reservoir, they didn't find anything. But that leads me to believe they got some sort of information that that would have led to being near or around that reservoir. Nothing of Miguel's has ever been found. Not his shirt, not his sneakers, nothing of his. He was only 24 when he went missing. 24 years old. He did have an ongoing, on again, off again drug addiction, which is why they say he left with possibly someone from the kitchen. He was looking to cop some drugs, probably. And that person must have said, hey, I could help you do that. And in my heart of hearts, I want to think that maybe it was like a robbery gone wrong, or I don't know, maybe he overdosed. Like, I don't know. Like, there are so many things that could have happened to him. But I feel like if it was an overdose, maybe he would have already been found by now. It's 2023, dude. He's been missing since 2006. Like, and regardless of whether he had a drug problem or not, Mickey was a good person. Like, he was a good person. Like, I'd come home from work and they would have already eaten dinner, and I'm just beat and I'm tired. And I'd come home and I'd, go in the kitchen and get myself something to eat. And he'd be like, Elise, I'll do it. Like, I'll make dinner. And I'm like, dude, didn't you already just make dinner for you guys? It's fine. I'll whip you up something. Like, he always, like, was just one of those people that, like, cared about other people. Like, he wasn't an asshole. Like, and he always had something funny. Always had something funny to say. Like, always. Like, he would always put a smile on your face. And he always checked in with his mother. So clearly when he didn't check in with his mother, she got really, really worried. And his mother has been his biggest cheerleader on this. Like, she's gone to plenty of places to say, hey, like, hey, here I am. I'm Miguel's mother. Hi, it's me, Myrna Gonzalez. This is me. Yeah, hi. Like, she's gone to them and been like, hey, I need you. Can you help me? Can you get this story out there? And, they've done a couple of, like, New England's still missing around the time he's gone missing every year. They do, they've done a couple of those, and, like, but not enough to garner any tips to find him. Like, someone knows something about where the hell Mickey is. Someone does. Someone, anyone. Someone knows they left that gentleman's club with him. Someone knows where they went. And mind you, he had no cell phone. He had no wallet with him. Back then, it was just like, Nokias or Nextels. I think I had a Nextel back then. But he had no cell phone. So there's no way to, like, even try to go back and, like, track where he would have been. Like, even back then with the limited technology they had, like, they at least could have found something. But he didn't have a cell phone, so there's nothing to track. That makes it even more difficult when you don't have a cell phone and you don't have digital footprint to sort of track bouncing off towers. Like, they didn't have that for him. And there's just been nothing that they've been able to go on since. Nothing. Legitimately nothing. And that's tough, dude. Like, for his family, for people who knew him, like, for friends like me, for his on again, off again girlfriend, which I'm sure it bugs every single day of her life. I know she got a tattoo in memorial of him, and hoping they'll still find him. I mean, of course you hope there's a miracle and, like, he's found, and, like, that one day, like, they will find him and he'll be alive. And that would be great. But the chances of that are slim to none, because unless somebody is holding him against his will, clearly he died. Right? So where is he? Where is he? Where is Miguel Oliveras? Where is he? Where is my friend Mickey? Like, someone knows something. Somebody does. Someone has to. If he left with that guy, either that guy or whoever they met after that knows something. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, someone knows something. Where is Miguel? Where is he? So, I mean, if you know something, if you think you know something, even if you remember something that you don't think is important, like, it could be important. It really could be. It could be very, very important. Like, we don't know, like, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Not sure. But I'm hoping that someone knows something. Someone. So if there was someone in, you know, the area of Portland, Maine on the 3rd of September, 2006, and you remember seeing Miguel leaving the Platinum Plus Gentleman's Club parking lot with another man, and you noticed the camo shirt and the green pants, like maybe, just maybe, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, you might want to say something. Maybe. Like someone knows where Miguel is. Someone knows where my friend Mickey is. And I wish that it wasn't a cold case at this point, because some cases are broken on the most minute information, like the most tiniest little detail that no one knows. Like that no one knows would make a difference. It makes a difference. Like, say, for instance, somebody's like, oh, I was riding around that area that night and I saw 2 males walking down the street. They cut down through, the parking lot behind my apartment complex, and then they went through the woods. That would at least give a general, vicinity or area for the police or investigators to go and look, even all these years later. Like, it would at least push them to some area, some specific area. At this point, there's no specific area other than that reservoir that they checked over the summertime. Like, and they didn't find anything. So it's like, okay, they checked this reservoir. So they got information from someone somewhere about it. But again, the story's it's not out there like that. Like, a ton of people from Maine have like, I've never heard of this story. Like, there's a couple of people I talked to when I was in Saco over the summertime on vacation. And a ton of people were like, wait, what? We live, in Maine. Like, we've never heard of this case. And I'm like, well, it was also 2006. So yeah, like, yeah, there's that. Like, it's a cold case. It's essentially a cold case. And to have someone you care about be missing for this long, it's all you can do is remember like all the good times, right? Like, I can remember every joke every time he came home and was like, no, I'll clean. No, I'll make you dinner. Like, and me arguing with him about it. Like, no, I can do it myself, dude. Go make dinner for your girlfriend, guy. Like, you'd be like, dude, you're my roommate. Like, I'm going to make dinner for you too. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, he was just that type of person. Like, he was just the type of person to care about everyone and anyone. It didn't matter who it was. And he had a kid who was special needs. And that was also something that we bonded over. Like, my kid obviously has a medical condition. His kid was born, I think, with cerebral palsy. And, that was something that we had as a common ground to talk about. And, I don't think actually we probably would have passed each, like, in life, we would have never, ever, ever, ever passed each other, ever. If it wasn't for my roommate dating him. Like, it's just the oddest thing where like two people can become friends who would probably never normally cross paths, but for some reason do. Like, my upstairs neighbor, we're probably the oddest couple of friends ever. He's, in his 60s. But I help take care of him, and he's a good person. Like, he's like family now. Like, make sure he takes his meds and cleans his own CPAP and whatever. But like, he's a good shit. Like, he's busting people's balls and it's hilarious. Like, and he'll bust your balls and it's funny. Like, but like, again, like, people have impact on people. Like, and Mickey had an impact on anybody he met. Like, first of all, you can't forget that smile, and you can't forget like just how he was in general. And that tattoo, that's why I mention it, because it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, anybody who knows him, we would always make fun of him for that tattoo. Always like, dude, you're a little self-absorbed. You got a damn tattoo that says Papi Chulo on your back. You just love yourself so much, Mickey. You could just love yourself so much. And he would just joke. Like, he would just, I kid. Like, just, he'd be like, yes, I do. That's me. Like, he didn't care. Like, he didn't care what other people thought. He didn't give a shit. Did not give a shit. Like, That's what I loved about him. He was such a free spirit. Like, he didn't care. He just kind of had the beat of his own drum. Like, to walk out of somewhere and just never be seen again, that is crazy. Like, that is crazy. Like, a lot of people who have read the little bit about the case that they've read are like, oh, well, maybe it was his girlfriend. Like, let me make something clear. The girlfriend took a polygraph. She cooperated with them. She was at work. There's literally record of it. Like, has nothing to do with her. But I did hear some rumors. About, of course, they're just rumors, obviously, but some rumors about him, because of his on again, off again drug addiction, which I've been there, because of it, that he robbed, something about robbing, but he didn't have a cell phone. So that's what the weird thing is. The rumor was like he robbed some Jamaican guys for drugs and a cell phone or something like that, but he didn't have a cell phone. So it's like, okay, well, if that happened, then where's the cell phone? Like, where is it? Nowhere to be found. He didn't have one that night, nor did he have one at all. So where to go? Anyone? Like, McFly? I don't know. No idea. Like, that was just a rumor. But again, sometimes, like, if I had known at the time like that, and I didn't know about the cook or the kitchen person until I want to say like 3 years later, had I known, I probably would have asked around like, hey, did anyone see, someone leave that night that was working? Like, because again, the problem with it is that there wasn't like a set schedule. Everybody didn't have a schedule. There was not like a schedule written down for every person. Like, essentially the way it worked is you could go in anytime you wanted and stay for as short or as long as you wanted. If you were a cook, that would have been a little different. You would have had a schedule. But if you were just like someone who cleaned up or brought stuff out to tables, like, they had so many people, it didn't matter. Like, you could come in when you wanted, you could leave when you wanted. Like, and so there wasn't like just a running list or schedule of who was there on what day. And I think that also probably hurts the case because there's no way to tell, okay, this person was there that day, this person was there that day, this person. The only thing you're going to get is like a list of like which dancers were working that night and all their fake names. Every single one of them. And who does that help? Absolutely no one. Like, that helps no one. You're not going to get, a bunch of fake, first names, because they don't do last names. You don't make a fake last name. You know what I mean? Like, strippers don't go by fake last names. It's not a thing. Like, just a first name, like, so that people don't stalk you and harass you. And I don't know if any of you guys remember about the stripper that was stalked and harassed, and then she got killed from Alex's. I think it was like her ex-boyfriend though, that like stabbed her. Like, that was horrific. I remember when that happened, and I remember like all the extra added like security and people that would walk you out to your car until it was locked, until you drove away. They stood in the parking lot. Like, it was crazy. Like, and then I remember the shooting in the Fairhaven Foxy Lady, where a guy came in and just started spraying bullets everywhere. And they put mirrors over the bullet holes. They literally put mirrors, but they didn't fill in these bullet holes. They didn't like, they literally took mirrors, long or square, and moved them over because it was a concrete wall. So they just moved it over these bullet holes. And then every person that walked through, they would go through your entire bag, everything that was in there. And you got to get checked with the wand twice, like in and out. And the guy that came in, I think, was like, I forget if they said it was like an ex-boyfriend or boyfriend of one of the bartenders. Like, people died. Like, people were shot, like, by a amazing, crazy person. Like, amazingly crazy. Like, he was cuckoo bananas and nobody stopped him from owning weapons. Like, you're that amazingly crazy and nobody stops you. You shouldn't legally own weapons if you're that cuckoo. Like, that's a little bit crazy. Doesn't make any sense though. I just know someone knows something. Someone knows something about a lot of cases, but Mickey's been gone since 2006. Someone in the Portland area of Maine know something. And technically, he's from Massachusetts. He is from Hyde Park, Massachusetts. That is where his mom and him lived when he didn't live with his girlfriend or me. He would go back to his mom's, and they're from Hyde Park. So why the hell doesn't anyone know anything? Like, that irks me. Someone knows something. Someone knows something. Like, that makes no sense. Like, anyone who knows me personally knows how hard that hit me when that happened. And I was young back then, like, very young. Like, and that was tough, dude. That was very tough. Like, you just up and disappear and no one finds you. Like, what? Like, what? And, he didn't have a ton of family, but he had, kids. Is his child's mother and his mom. And, Jesus, thankful for his mom because she's the only one fighting for him. She's the only one who's like, hey, find my son. Hey, the story needs to be out there. Hey, help, And it's frustrating. I know how frustrating it is to like want answers that the police won't give you. So like to call for like an update on the case and they'll just say, nothing yet. When we get something, we'll let you know. We got nothing yet. And they're also not going to tell you everything they have either. It is an investigation, but when an investigation goes cold, like, they don't normally like make press statements anymore. Although I think honestly they should. Like, I think that every police station or at least state that has missing people should have like a central cold case unit that goes out and helps solve these cold missing persons cases. Like, what about Maura Murray? Like, what? Like, there are so many people that have been missing for so long. And like, what are you really looking into if something doesn't fall into your lap? If you're going on the same bit of small evidence, same bit of like small whatever, like, there's only so much you can do. There's only so many witnesses you can question over and over again. There's only so many times you can read everything in the case file. What happened to Miguel? Where is Mickey? 2006. We're in 2023. In 2023, dude. That's insanity. Like, make that make sense. And there are plenty more people, obviously, that have been missing from long before that. The problem with Maine is there's a ton of woods and plenty of places to hide a body. So unless they drove way, like, further out, like, I mean, to be fair, not way out, because, like, 15 minutes away, like, there's, plenty of, like, road and country and woods and, everyone isn't going to walk in every part of the woods in Maine. That's just way too much, dude. Way, way too much. But unless you drove him out somewhere and dropped it somewhere else, like, you would have thought by now that like some, hunter or person would have come across remains of some sort somewhere. I've done searches for a missing person in the area for Sandra Crispo. And to think you're there searching for remains, for a body, or for more evidence, because if you can find evidence, they might let you use a cadaver dog. Might let you use a cadaver dog, but you actually have to find some sort of evidence, like what the person was wearing, or their shoes, or something they left with, like a purse, like, a wallet, like something, their earring. Like, you got to find something before they'll say, all right, we'll lend you the cadaver dog. Like, they won't just bring the cadaver dog out to check in places, which kind of sucks because, like, yeah, it costs money. Yes, it costs time. But, like, if you have a sort of idea of the places that should be checked, I think I think the police should check them. Like, even if you made it so that, like, private detectives could do it, if you, like, paid them, not an astronomical amount, but if you could pay them to do it, why wouldn't they? Like, for what reason? Like, why? Like, I understand that the cadaver dogs are expensive, and I understand that it's time and it's money and it's training. But if there are certain places that should be looked at, even if it's numerous locations, if you could pay a fee, right, to get the and maybe it's a retired detective, maybe it's a retired judge, maybe it's an active detective, but if you can pay either the police station or the government or the person money to use that cadaver dog, why shouldn't we be doing that? Why should it only be if you find the person's shoe or if you find evidence of some sort, then we'll lend the cadaver dog to you? Hello, McFly, that doesn't make any sense. No. No. It should be, if there's places that should be looked at, they should take that cadaver dog and go to those places. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. I don't know why you wouldn't. That doesn't make any logical sense to me at all. But then again, I get it. Time, resources, like I understand it. But for the families of these people who are missing, you think they care about time or resources? Every minute that clicks by is time for their family and friends, for this person that's missing. Every second, every hour. Like, that's time to them. So why should we just say like, oh yeah, we'll give you the cadaver dog, but you got to find evidence. You got to find something that we can go on for us to use said cadaver dog. Why can't it just be like, hey, maybe I got to hunt? Because, sometimes a good gut feeling is the way to go. Like if one of your loved ones goes missing and you kind of have an inkling that it had to be someone close to them and there's only XYZ amount of people that it could have been, their houses would be a good place to check. The surrounding woods or parks or areas like that would be a great place to check. But we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that unless something is found. And then we use these cadaver dogs. Like, what about the guys from Adventures for a Purpose? Do you know how many people they have found underwater that the police have not? I remember one specific episode. There was one specific episode where there was something like a ridiculous amount of like vehicles in like a hollow, like a lake or a reservoir, something like that. It was some sort of like, hollow that they had. And the police had said like they were being snarky. And basically saying like, oh, well, we already checked. He's not in there. Right? Like, oh, he's not in there. His car's not in there. He's not in there. Except he was, right? And then they were pissed when Adventures for a Purpose actually found said person in said car that was actually in there. And they were saying, basically, there's a ton of cars. Well, we only have so many resources. I'm sorry, what? Do you know how insensitive that is to every single one of those families that probably has a person in one of those vehicles that's inside that lake that you claim that you looked in? I don't think that they're going to be too happy that you're just like, we don't have the resources to check all those. Like, so a human life isn't worth you checking. I don't care how much money it costs. That's the taxpayers' money. It was their money to begin with, right? These people paid taxes just like everybody else on planet Earth. Why the hell shouldn't they be allowed to have you go look for their loved one in the water? Also, if there's abandoned cars in the water and you find one with a body in it, maybe you should check the rest of them. Those are cases you could close too and give the family something to have closure on. And I hate using the word closure. I hate the fucking word. I hate it so much because there's no such thing as closure, dude. No such thing. They also say that forgiveness isn't for you, but for the other person. I beg to differ on that. Like, I beg to differ that it's for the other person because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to forgive my abuser for abusing me. I don't think he deserves it at all. I don't think the person who abused me as a child deserves it. So no, you don't get that from me. You don't get my forgiveness at all. You do not you don't get it. You're not getting it. Like, I've been through a lot of hell in my life. And I went through the tunnel and I came out the other side. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I worked at a prison last. And the only reason I'm not currently there is because I don't have the money for after school and before school childcare for 30 grand. Because that's what childcare costs now. 30 grand. A roundabout, give or take. And there's got to be a slot too. So there's that. But I worked with the criminally insane at Bridgewater. And when I mean criminally insane, I mean criminally insane. Some people would come from, we'd get court orders because we're on hunger strikes. We'd get court orders to literally have to force them to take meds because they're so far gone off these meds that they're peeing under their cell door and telling you that the devil is telling them that they're going to kill every one of us when we allow them out of the cell. Like, I'm talking heavily unmedicated people for a very long period of time. We got quite, like, there's a max unit inside there, and I worked in the intake unit. So basically I got them when they were coming right in, fresh in, right? Whether they were transferred out from a different prison or they were arrested or whatever, they came to my unit. And I'll never forget this one freaking night. One night. Guys pounding on his cell door, right? And there you have to check it's not like a regular prison where, like, you do count like every couple hours or whatever. We had to do it every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes because they're all technically on suicide watch. So every 15 minutes, we have to make sure they're alive and breathing in their cell. And I hated having to like shine the light sort of like in their faces because it's like, I don't want to, but I have to be able to see like you're breathing. Like you're either, with your eyes open or with your eyes closed. And I can at least see your chest sort of rising and falling. I need to see that like there's nothing tied around your neck. Like there's nothing. So like every 15 minutes, you'd have to check. And this one night, he was such a young kid too, so young. And he's just pounding on his cell door, and his cell, the people in the cells next to him are like, dude, shut the hell up. Like, we're trying to sleep. It's, well past midnight. It's 1 a.m. Like, shut the hell up. Right. And I'm doing my 15-minute count every time. And every time he wants to chat. And I'm like, listen, I got to do count. Right. Like, you need something. Is there something you specifically need? And he was unmedicated, and B, I think they're one person cells. So I think he was like lonely. He wanted me to like literally stand at his cell and just talk to him. And I'm like, listen, I got a job to do. I can't stand here and talk to you. I know you're like probably lonely or whatever, like, and it sucks. And he'd be, after I would do count, I would go back to the office to write up what I needed to write up. And he'd be screaming down the hallway, Southie. For some reason, he called me Southie. I told him like 16 times, like, dude, I'm not from Southie. Like, he was from like the Midwest somewhere. So he had like that, sort of accent. And I'm like, dude, not from Southie. Not from Southie. He didn't care. Still called me that. Cool. Whatever. Sure. But he was heavily unmedicated. So he would go from being completely normal, right, to being completely abnormal, where he would be like sitting in his cell with like a sock. I'm not kidding. I'm dead serious. Sock on his hand, blanket over his head halfway, talking to said sock, right? Because he was so heavily unmedicated. And I saw him go from that, right, till after he saw the psychiatrists and the doctors and all that, to actually functioning like a normal person. There was no more socks. He was not having any more conversations with a sock puppet. But then again, there was other people. There was other people that no matter what med you gave them, it just clearly didn't work. And like, they were just gone. And you got to sort of feel for these people at the same time, because you got to be like, what would it be like if you just like heard voices all the time and no medication worked? Like, that would kind of be hell, right? Like, what would it be like if you thought constantly that, like, it's always they, I don't know what that means, but they are coming for you. They, right? Like, who the fuck is they, dude? Who the hell is they? Like, but that was the thing with them. Like, our inmates were the criminally insane. That was, the purpose, right? Like, they were there so that we could say whether they were competent to stand trial or not. Some people just kind of wanted to come there from other prisons because they had better, like, they had more time out of the cell. They had better, like, privileges, I guess you would say. They had better privileges. So those are people we would call malingering, which means they're not actually criminally insane. They might have some, mental health issues, but they're not criminally insane. So then, they'd be assessed and they'd be sent back to a different prison. But I liked working there. Like, back in the day before the private company took over that I worked for, the COs, Governor Baker sort of like did away with the COs in Bridgewater, at least aside the hospital part that I worked in, because they call it Bridgewater State Hospital. It's supposed to operate like a hospital, but it doesn't. We have like a wing, a medical, like, wing basically, but not a hospital. Like, they're in cells. They wear DOC uniforms, says DOC on the back. Like, you're an inmate. Like, that's, I remember there was a cleaning company. There was a cleaning company that was supposed to have a contract when we first took over. And the cleaning company came and they canceled their contract because they didn't realize that it was a prison. They showed up and there was the barbed wire, around everything. And they had to go through security and through that trap and then out the other side and then back through, it's have all their stuff scanned through and then out to the field where each building would be. And you could walk, to each unit in each building. And they canceled it because they thought it was a hospital because it was called Bridgewater State Hospital. So they thought, oh, well, we'll do a hospital, no problem. And then they got there and they were like, yeah, no, this is not a hospital. You guys misled us. It's a prison. We're not doing a prison with inmates. And I mean, it is dangerous. No word of a doubt. It's dangerous. Like, Code Black is like a staff assault. Those used to happen all the time, all the damn time. And so it's supposed to be like most available staff, if you hear that, are supposed to be running to help, obviously, another staff in whatever unit it's happening in. But you can't leave a unit empty either. So it's like, if we only have 2 people, no one can leave to help the other unit. So it's got to be like extra people who are just, doing security on the grounds or whatever. But I remember when we first took over, the old COs that were outgoing poured like these big vats of juice, like the jail juice, into our brand new computer systems. Like, they took keys, like, and some of those keys are like hundreds of dollars to make because they go to these cell doors, right? And the cell doors are like older than sin, and they have these hatches at the bottom too that still operate that you could give like meds through or a snack, like stuff like that. And so one key is for the cells, one key is for the hatch, and then you have all the keys to all the extra doors in the unit, the bathrooms and the janitorial closet and the offices. And they took keys. It took months to get new keys. Like, I mean, I get why the governor did it. I mean, there was a lot of shit going on. We weren't allowed to do like restraints anymore. There was no like 5-point restraints anymore. That was completely gone, not an option anymore, which, I mean, definitely could have been helpful for some people because some people were constant suicide watch. When I mean constant, I mean constant suicide watch. Like, so basically someone would be standing there, me or someone else, we had to rotate out every 2 hours. If someone in the unit was on eyeball, which is what we call eyeball, it's for it's for someone who's like said they're going to or tried to commit suicide in their cell, and you would just be staring at them. You have to legit stand outside the cell and just stare at them unless it's time where they're out. Then you literally have to like follow them around the unit and keep eyes on them at all times. And like, that's your job for the next 2 or 3 hours until someone rotates out with you. Cause it's really hard to like not start getting tunnel vision and getting tired when you're just staring and staring and staring at something for that long. And so the rule was 2 to 3 hours max before you rotate out with someone else. And me and my sister-in-law worked there, and she worked on the unit upstairs from me. And oftentimes, like, we'd cover like breaks over there and stuff, and I'd go up, cover the break. She'd come down, cover the break. And so we had a lot of cross between, like, once some of the inmates that I had in intake would go up to her unit. And then when they were doing stuff over, like, the lifers kind of went into that part upstairs. But you meet a lot of interesting people working in a prison, that's for sure. But the governor fired the actual COs that were working there from the Department of Correction before that, because what was happening was, remember the guy I was just telling you about who used to call me Selfie? Well, guys like that who would like pound on their cells all night long and wake up all the other inmates and be disruptive. Yeah, so the COs would just hit the buttons and let the cell doors open of certain people, and they would let them just beat the shit out of the person so that the person would shut the hell up. And so stuff like that was happening. So the governor was like, yeah, we can't be doing that. That's not a thing. We're not doing that. And thank God when I worked there, that was not a thing, because I lost my marbles. We're not letting people out to beat each other up. What are you, 5? Grow up. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. Grow up, dude. We're not doing that. We're not letting people, beat each other up because they're being annoying. Like, that's how a jail's loud. Like, oh, well. Like, ask him to quiet down, or maybe he needs some sleep meds. Like, I don't know. Sometimes you just can't. Sometimes they're just like that all night long until they pass out. Part of the job, dude. Part of the job. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, they had a lot of work to do. there. Like there's a lot of like mold in the old buildings, and they're old. Those buildings are extremely, extremely old. Even in the administration building that I was stuck in for weeks because I had a boot on my foot. That was terrible and it sucked. And I was pregnant at the same time. Pregnant and with a boot on my foot. That was fun. And I couldn't be in the unit because they were too afraid that like one of the inmates was gonna like take advantage of the fact that I had a boot on my foot and I was pregnant. So it's funny because I asked for administration when I was pregnant and they were like, no, you don't need that. You're fine. It's fine. And I was like, you're not worried there could be a staff assault while I'm pregnant? And they're like, nah. Okay, cool, thanks. So I only got administration when I actually hurt my foot, and I had that stupid boot on for the weeks that I had it on. But that building is filled with just like mold, and I know they were like redoing them and stuff. So I'm hoping it's better conditions over there now. My sister-in-law worked there for a while still. She left like 9 months ago or so, and she said it's still shit. Like they redid some stuff, but the Max across the street, like the Max across the street, the big Max, not like the little unit Max that we have, but like the big Max across the street. They have very old buildings as well. They even have some buildings they don't even use anymore because they're so freaking old. We have too many prisons in this state, though. There's that. Like Shirley Max, that's an old building. Nashua Street, extremely old building. South Bay, it's a little more updated than some, but still an old building. Some of these jails are very... Dartmouth is extreme. I think it's either Dartmouth or New Bedford, Ash Street. That's like the oldest jail, along with Framingham. It's a very old jail. At some point, Framingham was being fined. I think it was like something like $35 or $50 a day or something for every time they kept one certain building open because it wasn't like for habitation or whatever. Like, but I mean, our justice system needs some help. Like it needs some work. And the only way it's going to change is if people use their voices to change it. And I don't see that happening because it's going to take a whole lot of voices. It can't just be one person. Can't just be 5 people. It's got to be a lot of people. Like a lot of people. Like that's, maybe if people find something so egregious, they speak out. But what happens is it dies down. And then what? Then people aren't so mad anymore. Our politicians forget about it. And nothing gets done about the injustices, about the corruption, about any of it. It just sits there and sits there and sits there. And nothing happens. And then we're here bitching and complaining about how bad the justice system is. I've worked in the justice system. I know how bad it is. I know things get hidden and slid under the rug, and it's a shitty position to be in too when you know something and then you have to say something like, hey, yeah, this happened. It was supposed to be a report written. I was told not to write it, but I need to write it. Like you're enemy number 1 after that. Enemy number 1. Absolutely enemy number 1. And it sucks. Like you can't be doing all that. Like it's not a thing. Like it's just not a thing. Like that's why, some people choose to leave the profession of being cops. A lot of people that left that profession, it was just not for them. Like it was not a thing for them. They just didn't like it. Like it is what it is. If I had decided to be a cop and I didn't like it because of that, like I'd probably do something completely opposite of that. Like maybe I'd go be like a tech person or something, but like I wouldn't want anything to do with... I know 2 people that left because of like corruption, basically. Like they were just like, this is not like, no, they didn't want to be put out in the middle of nowheresville like they watched someone else do, because what happens is if you find corruption or you see corruption and then you say something, guess what happens? You get put out in the middle of nowhere. They put you at the worst place possible. Legit, the worst place possible. And they leave you there. Like that's it. They just leave you there. Like that's like career death for a cop. Like they want to be in the action. Like they want to do it. But they're like, oh, well, you told on a fellow officer, so we're going to stick you way out here in like nowheresville. Like, well, that sucks, dude. No cop wants that. So like, you know what? Fuck it. If I can't win by catching the bad guys and I can't win by helping the good guys, what can I do? And they leave the profession. Like some of them, though, choose to go back into things like being a CO, like being a corrections officer. Like they're like, you know what? If I can't help out in being a cop, maybe I can help out there, And so they choose to do that. Either way, you know, whatever they choose to do, I hope they found something that they liked, because I can't imagine doing all that work for a career and then finding out the people in that career who run it don't care enough to weed out the bad in the career that's supposed to be helping protect the public, right? Like, and I mean, remember the overtime scandal, right? That's okay, girl. That's okay. Remember the overtime scandal with the Mass State Police, right? Like that. I mean, I'm guaranteeing you there's still not people they caught in that. I mean, do you remember the Braintree gig? Like the Braintree police station gig? Do you remember that? Yeah. That was where they stole from the evidence room. Yeah. They stole from the evidence room and no one was charged or arrested. And Braintree claimed there was no like footage. Right? No late fee here, lady. Only support for the channel when you want to. I should put the banner up. I haven't even done that once. This is how you do it. Cash App or Venmo or PayPal if you need it. You can tell us. We'll put it in the comment section. But you would be played. You would probably be broke if there was a late fee. Yes, you would, ma'am. Like, but if you guys remember that scandal from Braintree Police, like that was something else. Like that sucked. Absolutely sucked. I was waiting for like them to say, okay, like this person and this person are going to be charged, even if it wasn't like a cop. They have civilians that work in police stations. Like no one, when they came out and said no one was going to be charged. Oh my God. My friends that live in Braintree were pissed the hell off, dude. They were like, huh? What? What do you mean no one's going to be charged? They stole drugs and guns and money from the evidence room. What do you mean, dude? Like someone's got to be charged for that. Nope. They were like, nah, we ain't charging no one. Sorry. Like, cool. That blew my mind. But again, there was also the probation scandal. You guys remember that one at the Norfolk County, which was that people were only getting jobs through people they knew. Like, they were only getting the job because of who they knew, not because of, any other reason. Like they're not qualifications. They were actually passing over people with better qualifications because this person knew this person and that's how they got the job. Like, oh, I see then. Like, and again, you remember it and it gets swept under the rug. The only things that weren't swept on, well, to be fair, Sandra Farrak and Annie Dugan, right? Remember that? The drug lab scandal? Sandra Farrak, that case, they did try to hide stuff because they had already had such a big blowout when it came to Annie Dugan, right? And so many defendants that had to like get dismissed or released from jail or like whatever. That was such a big debacle that when Sandra Farrak came, they were like, this one's not big. It's really small. It only affected like a little people. It's just like a dozen or so. Like, it's cool. We're cool. Done. No, that was a lie. So what happened was that the attorney, and his name was Luke Ryan, and Luke Ryan kept digging and digging and digging and digging, and he knew they were hiding these worksheets, these mental health worksheets, because they were listed on like the evidence that they took from Sandra Farrak's car. So it said like mental health worksheets or something like that, and he had been trying to get them and get them and get them, and they were claiming like, oh, they didn't have them or they didn't exist or whatever it was they were saying. I can't even remember, but he kept digging and hammering in on them until he got them, and it showed how far back it went. So they were claiming it was only like, I think it was like, they were saying like a year or something. Like it was like a short period of time they were saying it was happening for. And it wasn't. It was going on for a very long time. And so they knew it would open up a can of worms instead of going from, like one year to like, 5 or 6 or 7. That goes from like maybe, 100 or 200 defendants to like thousands at that point. And they didn't want another Annie Dugan, so they were trying to hide the Sandra Farrak stuff. But Luke Bryan did not stand down. He did not. Luke Ryan did not just stand there and do nothing. He kept going. And like that dude's a smart dude. Like that dude's a smart dude. He's in I think what's the damn documentary about? How to Fix a Drug Scandal. That's it. And it's on Netflix, I think. I don't think it's Hulu. I think it's Netflix. It's Netflix, I think. And it's How to Fix a Drug Scandal. And if you watch that, it'll tell you all about like what Luke Ryan's in it. And he'll tell you like what he had to do and what he had to go through in order to prove that this is what was happening. Like this was it. Like there was these worksheets they were hiding because they didn't want to have to let off all these other criminal defendants. Like, but you can't have your chemist using the drugs and then say they're not tainted or say that they're not, like, you can't, the chemist can't be doing that. So, and they were already like, oh, we had to get rid of so many for Sanja Farak. So like, we're going to have to not tell them. I mean, for Annie Dickinson, we're going to have to not tell them for Sanja Farak. We're going to have to not do that. And so they tried to hide it. And actually the lady who like was overseeing all the DAs and stuff that didn't turn over the exculpatory evidence, she was actually just disbarred. She's never allowed to practice law in this state again. And, I mean, that's a good thing, but there were more than just one person involved. I mean, there was a public admonishment to one of them. Oh, I want to ride horsies. Loose. How the hell did they get loose? Were they smart and learned how to open a gate? But, yeah, so they lied. I mean, but if you watch that, it's How to Fix a Drug Scandal. It's actually interesting. Like it tells the entire story and how thorough Luke Ryan was when he did that. Like that dude has some balls. Like that dude just kept going and going and going until he found what he wanted and found the answers that he knew were there. Like he knew those were there. No word of a doubt. No word of a doubt he knew they were there. Like good for him though. Like good for him. Good for him. Because if he had just left it alone, right? How many people would have got hurt from that? I'm going to guess quite a lot. Quite a lot of people would have been hurt for that. So, I mean, if he didn't do the hard work he did, there'd be a lot of people sitting in jail right now that shouldn't be. That's not cool either. That's definitely not cool. And I'm glad he did what he did. It's a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work because when you keep getting told, no, we don't have those documents, they don't exist or whatever. And he knew they existed. Like he knew, no word of a doubt. He knew. And he was like, I'm going to get those damn documents. Like, and they lied in court, which was even worse. And the judge actually, I remember when I watched it, I watched like the thing of the judge flipping out basically, like you knowingly lied to the court. Like, and I remember the lady trying to take like a cop out of like, oh, well, I didn't know, or it's like, your name is on the bottom of all of these. You had to know. Either you knew or you weren't doing your job. Either way, it's part of your job to know. So, yeah, you're not getting that cop out. The judge was not buying that cop out. The judge was like, nope, I think not. Thank you very much. I think not. Like, so, I mean, sucks, but like, this is the stuff that continues to, like, do you really think that we don't have other problems like that in other arms of the government? Like, these are the ones that were just like found out, right? Like, these are the ones that they like were like, hey, this isn't right. And now the public knows. So now we got to do something. Like, what about all the rest of them that have been just swept under the rug? Just swept right under there. Because I'll tell you, there's definitely still plenty out there, especially in Norfolk County. Like, Norfolk County has Quincy District Court, which is a court I was at many times when I was an addict. That court itself has a lot of issues, like a lot of issues that probation department, like that whole thing right there. Like, if you wanted to find corruption, that would be the place to start. That'd be the place to start. Like, and you could probably spread out everywhere else, but that would be the place to start. I mean, people get motivated by, greed, money, like, but what I don't understand is what motivates you to want to put innocent people in jail or lie about innocent people to put them. Like, is it the conviction rates? Like, is it because you need to keep your conviction rate up? Like, that's what you need to do? Like, it boggles the mind as to what are you gaining? What are you gaining from doing this exactly? Like, are you being blackmailed into it? Like, I'm confused. Like, I don't understand. Like, this doesn't make any freaking sense at all. Like, why, just why would you do that? Huh? Like, what? Sure, you do that. Makes plenty of sense. Now, they've hid stuff like car accidents. So if a cop is willing to hide something as small as a car accident and risk his pension for a car accident, what else would they hide? I have to think that to myself all the time after that happened. What else would they hide? You're trying to hide just a simple car accident. You're trying to lie about a simple car accident, a simple, you know, fender bender. Like, what else are you gonna lie about, dude? Like, because I've heard people be like, well, they wouldn't, risk their pensions. Like, um, yeah, they would. They have for less, for much less. Like, you have to remember that, like, again, they're not all good cops. Like, they're not all good judges. They're not all good. Like, some of them are either taking bribes or, they know someone who knows someone. So the someone is like charged and then like, oh, we know that person. We're going to talk to our buddies over, at the court and like get it propped. Like, who was it? Was it Matt Gates? I think it was Matt Gates, where there was a DUI that was like swept under the rug. He was never charged with. Like, what? Why was that? Because if it was me or you'd have been charged with it, right? Like, you'd have been charged with it. Like, it was completely and utterly just sweep it right under the rug. Sweep it right under the damn rug. Like, they didn't care. They did not care. Like, that's sad. That's very, very sad. Like, if they're gonna stop and try to cover a car accident, then you don't think they cover a murder or drugs? Like, back when I was an addict, dude, do you know how many times the cops would like take someone's drugs and not log it into evidence? And what's the drug addict going to say? Oh, hey, oh, by the way, I had 3 bags and not 2. Like, of course not. That's why they do it. But Braintree was one of the ones that used to do it all the time. So it's like, what happened to those people? Like, obviously, the people being arrested aren't going to rat them out because then you can tack on the charge and then probably some like, ones that are literally from nowhere, right? Like that literally they made up just because they're like now trying to punish you for like outing them, right? Like, but that happens all the time all over the country. It doesn't just happen here in Massachusetts. Like, it happens all over the country every single day. There's shit like this. And when you stop and think about it, you're kind of like, oh shit. Protect and serve, right? Protect and serve. That's the whole like mantra. Yeah, there was a court case in the Supreme Court that decided they don't actually have to protect you. Ain't that about a bitch, huh? Like, ain't that about a bitch? Your tax dollars at work there they don't have to protect you. They don't have to. Not one bit. Not even a little. They do not have to protect you. And you're like, wait a second, what? They don't have to protect me? No, the judge ruled that they have no obligation to have to protect the public. What? Matter of fact, let me see if I can get it up here because you're gonna be like, that's insane, right? Like, not everybody knows that, but like, let me see. Supreme Court case. So let's see. Like, they don't have to protect you. That's insane. Like, well, okay, well, what's the purpose then? Like, I'd argue, what would be the point? Oh, allowing domestic violence gun curbs. Oh, that's something. Let's see. The police have an obligation. Where's the case? Justice rules. Police do not have a constitutional duty to protect. So that was 2005. Let's see if we can get this up here. 2005, dude. No duty to protect you. Like, what? That one boggled my mind, that's for sure. Let me see. Here it is. Share. All right. So this is where it tells you. Oh, shit. No, I don't want to buy your stupid paywall thing. But justices rule police do not have a constitutional duty to protect someone. Like, just that statement alone is like, what? You don't have a constitutional duty to protect anyone. What do you mean, dude? Like, what? Why? Why not? Like, this headline itself kind of speaks volumes as to, like, what's, like, that's my argument. What are the police for if not to protect? Like, what class? Anybody know the answer? Like, what are they for? The justices in 2005 ruled they don't have to protect someone. They have no constitutional duty to do so. Well, then I'd like to know what would be the purpose of police. Are they just there to, like, write tickets and get your money and, write tickets for, like, law abiding citizens who have a taillight out that they don't even know it's out? Like, I mean, is it just a cash cow at this point? Like, it says June 27th. The Supreme Court ruled on Monday that the police did not have a constitutional duty to protect a person from harm, even a woman who had obtained a court-issued protective order against a violent husband, making an arrest mandatory for a violation. The decision was an opinion by Justice Antonin Scalia and dissents from Justices John Paul Stevens and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Oh, God rest her soul, that lady. She's got some big balls. Overturned a ruling by a federal appeals court in Colorado. The appeals court had permitted a lawsuit to proceed against a Colorado town, Castle Rock, for the failure of the police to respond to a woman's pleas for help after her estranged husband violated a protective order by kidnapping their 3 young daughters, whom he eventually killed. Now, for hours on the night of June 22nd, 1999, Jessica Gonzalez tried to get the Castle Rock police to find and arrest her estranged husband, Simon Gonzalez, who was under a court order to stay 100 yards away from the house. He had taken the children, ages 7, 9, and 10, as they played outside, and he later called his wife to tell her that he had the girls at an amusement park in Denver. Miss Gonzalez conveyed the information to the police, but they failed to act before Mr. Gonzalez arrived at the police station hours later, firing a gun with the bodies of the girls in the back of his truck. The police killed him at the scene. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, what now? What? That's like, so you're telling me, and this always boggled my mind how they did this, like how they just said, like, oh, cops don't have to protect you. And all because this case where this woman had called for help, called the cops, estranged husband, kidnapped their daughters, took their 3 daughters that he later killed, and then went into the police station and fired a weapon. I'm sorry, what? And so they didn't act when she called them for help. Newsflash. They've done that for a long time. But this blew my mind that they would literally rule this way. Insane to me. Like, you don't have a duty to protect someone? Interesting. Again, if that's not the case, then what the hell do we have cops for? What would be the purpose of having cops if they have no duty to protect the public? Because I'm pretty sure in my eyes, if that woman got a court order from her estranged husband to stay 100 yards away and he broke it, then yeah, you'd have a duty to protect me because cops enforce those, right? Like when you go into a school and there's a school shooter and you're supposed to, like, confront the school shooter, which is what the big problem in Uvalde was they didn't go and confront him right away, which they're supposed to do. After Columbine, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. They waited in Columbine and too many people got killed. So since then, the protocol has always been to go right in. This is another thing that irks me. They just had a drill with my kindergartner. A drill where they told them it was hide and seek. That they had to hide. This is an active shooter drill. Okay. They sent a thing home saying they were going to do an active shooter drill at the school. And I'm like, my kid's in kindergarten. You're going to tell my kid she's doing an active shooter drill? Like, what? I mean, I never did active shooter drills when I was in school. We never had those. We had fire drills, but we did not have active shooter drills. That was not like a thing. So when they told me my kindergartner was going to have an active shooter drill, I was like, I don't like that. Like, I don't want my kindergartner having to worry every day whether a madman is going to come in with a gun and kill everyone, and she has to hide. Also, studies have shown that hiding is like a sitting duck. Why are we teaching these children to be sitting ducks? Like, obviously, yeah, you don't want them leaving if it's not safe, right? Like, and the shooter's outside the door, but you also don't want them sitting in that room like a sitting duck. Like, and they teach them to like lock the door, shut the lights off. A locked door is not going to stop bullets. Number one. Number two, the fact alone that the school doesn't have like bulletproof doors in their classrooms or whatever, if they really wanted to protect, wouldn't you make them more impenetrable? Like, so that shooters like this couldn't get into the school to begin with. Yet, like, instead of teaching kindergartners active shooter drills, when she ever came home and told me they played a game and it was hide and seek. Hide and seek. And it was so that no one could find them. What? What do you mean, dude? Like, what do you mean? What? You just taught my kid an active shooter drill without it being an active shooter drill. Like, okay, so if that happens, how would my kid know to do that if you haven't taught her what it's about? Something that makes your blood boil. It made my blood boil, that's for sure. My older ones know, like, you call me. I'm coming. I told you guys the story of my oldest being under a table at Johnny Rockets in the Social Plaza when a shooting happened. Johnny Rockets got in trouble because, yeah, they brought the cage down. But at Johnny Rockets, all the tables are like just inside that cage. And then there's like a kitchen in the back. They got in trouble for not bringing all the customers out back where it would have been safer. They were all under like these tiny little tables that they had there. They were tiny. They were small. They were not like something you could actually hide under. You got my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, my sister, and my daughter hiding under this table at Johnny Rockets. And my mother calling me from under that table and my daughter calling me from under that table, telling me what's going on. And I banged a Yui in the middle of the street and I'm heading towards the mall. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going in there. And he's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, oh, yes, I am, sir. Like, oh, yes, I am. And he can tell you, I was going in there. Thankfully, because they were where they were at the food court. It's like, there's like I don't want to say hallway because it's not a hallway. I mean, there's things where you walk this way and this way, and there's like a bridge in between it, that you can like cut through to go to the other side or whatever. But there's a door straight through the other side. All they had to do was get from where they were at Johnny Rockets, make sure it was safe, and boot out that door that goes out to the garage. And my grandmother told her to take the kids and just go. And my grandma had COPD and stuff. She wasn't fast and in the least, and she was in her 70s at the time. And she was like, just go get the kids out now. And that's what my mother did. My mother, booked it out of there. So when she got out, she called me, and it was like maybe 3 minutes later that I started pulling into the mall. Let me tell you, the cops weren't even there yet. And I'm like, how are the cops not even here yet, bro? It took me at least 5 or 7 minutes to get here. At least they weren't on the side that I saw, the front side. Where like on not where the cheesecake side is, on the opposite side, like where it used to be like Joe's Bar and Grill, I think, on that side. And that is where I like pulled into, and my mother was like, I'm gone, I'm already left. The cops weren't even there yet. They like, never got statements. Like people were just like booting out of there. And so my mother got in her car and she drove home. Like, and I was petrified when I got that call from my daughter. She's under a table because they heard the gunshots. They were very loud. My mother and my daughter said They were extremely loud from where they were. They could hear them. And it happened to be that it wasn't actually like a shooting, like, like a mass shooting, but some sort of gang altercation or something that they thought it was. But still, nonetheless, scary as hell. Scary as hell. Especially from your relatives calling you from underneath the table. I can't imagine. I don't even want to imagine what it have been like if, anyone had actually like if my family had gotten hurt in that. Like, I'd probably never go to a public place that big ever again. Probably. I probably would never do it. Absolutely. Like, sad. Very sad. But it happens, right? Like, it happens. Sucks, but it happens. Like, I'll never forget that. That probably trauma bonded to that. It's probably damn trauma bonded to that. But it is what it is, right? Like, we got to be safer. We got to keep our kids safer. But my kindergartner doing active shooter drills, like, that kind of bugged me. I'm not going to lie. Like, yes, obviously I want my kid to be taught to be safe, but at the same time, I also don't want her to be taught that she's got to worry every day, if that makes any sense. Like, in kindergarten, that's insane. First grade, second grade, third grade. I think the kids, maybe third grade, but in kindergarten and in first grade and in second grade, like, they should be kids. They should be safe. We never had to do active shooter drills when we were kids. We did fire drills. And those used to hate because it's like, ugh, can't bring anything out with you unless you like have a sweatshirt or a jacket on already, which kind of sucked. But we didn't do those when we were kids. It wasn't an active shooter drill time. Like, I mean, things happened like Columbine. Like, I remember doing a whole report on Columbine. This huge paper, and I printed out like 200 pieces of paper that were all like news articles and like survivor accounts, and like it was actually a really good project. It was a great project. But it was sad because the cops didn't go in right away, and that's why it was such a big deal in Texas when they didn't go in right away, because they should have went in right away. Like, that's something they should have went in. But again, they have no constitutional duty to protect someone, apparently, according to the Supreme Court in 2005. So it's like, okay, well, if they don't have a constitutional duty to protect someone, then do they have the constitutional duty to protect my child in an active shooter situation? Like, I think they should, right? They should. Like, I don't know. Like, that's sucky. That's bad. That's terrible. Like, we're talking about they don't have to protect us. And this poor woman, once again, was like a domestic violence victim. She had a restraining order on the guy, her estranged husband. He stole their 3 kids and killed them, and then went into a police station and fired a gun. Like, what? And they didn't do anything when she called to report the violation. Like, maybe you could have saved those kids' lives, maybe. I don't know. Just maybe. Definitely, probably you could have. And you chose not to. Why? So that's where this case came from. This Supreme Court case of them having no constitutional duty to protect us came from that case, where those 3 kids were killed by their father. And then he went in for like a police suicide, basically. Like, yeah, when you go into a police station firing a weapon, you're probably not going to make it out alive. Just saying. Probably not. Like, it's probably not a thing you're going to do. Like, you should probably, I mean, caught by suicide, though, with some of these people is, I mean, the shooter that just killed himself, though, like, he didn't do suicide by cop, but I mean, I wouldn't want to do suicide by cop, that's for sure. Like, I mean, it just, like, how can that not bother anybody that they have no constitutional duty to protect someone? Well, if they don't have a constitutional duty to protect someone, then they don't have a constitutional duty to protect my child at school if something goes wrong, or me in a public place where something goes wrong. Like, that don't make no sense to me. And I hope one day the Supreme Court does some more work in like reversing this in a different case, because this is unacceptable. Like, this why do we even have cops? I'll reiterate. What would be the reason? We're just gonna make them money. They're just gonna be, you know, like write tickets and civil forfeiture. Like that's it. Like civil forfeiture, aka, you know, slush fund money, shouldn't ever be allowed anywhere unless you are actually found guilty of said crime. You should not have to have civil asset forfeiture on suspicion. There shouldn't be civil asset forfeiture on a dismissed case. Like, this should be civil asset forfeiture should be for guilty and guilty only, because I have no problem with you doing that if that's the case. But when you're, you know, there was all those lock boxes. It was a, like a, I don't know if it wasn't a bank. It was more like a, I forget what the place was called, but they had lock boxes there that you could, you know, get rent. And people had, you know, money, jewelry, you know, all sorts of shit in these lock boxes. And the cops found out that there was some sort of like um, racketeering issue thing going on. And they literally went and took every single box, every safety deposit box. Some of these people, life savings were in these safety deposit boxes, I guess. Like, they had a lot of money and jewelry and whatever else in these safety deposit boxes, and the cops took it all, and they've been fighting to get it back for years and years and years and years and years. And so the cops basically said, like, oh, well, the business was suspicious because the business was like doing X, Y, and Z. Okay, but the customers didn't know. You can't hold the customers to the same accountability as the business owners that are doing whatever they're doing. The customers bought their safety deposit boxes and paid for their safety deposit boxes. So why shouldn't they get their life savings that was in it? Like, why should the cops be able to use it as a slush fund? Like, that's not, like, there needs to be better rules clearly on civil asset forfeiture. That's just the bottom line. And there isn't. Probably never will be. I mean, they are working on it in some places. I know Massachusetts at one point was working on something, but I haven't seen anything in a really long time about anything about civil asset forfeiture. You know, it is what it is. Like, I mean, this should concern everyone, though. The justices not having the justice saying that the cops don't have any constitutional duty to protect anyone. Sad. It's really, really sad. I don't know. This really bugged me. And after talking about Miguel's case, it's like, if they have no constitutional duty to protect, then they have a constitutional duty to find these missing people. Do they have that? Like, what's next? You know what I mean? What's next in their duties that they don't have to do? Protect and serve is the mantra, right? Protect and serve. But no, they don't have to protect you. Like, I'm sorry, what now? Now, this is the Charlie Project, by the way, for Miguel. See if they have a picture of him. I think this is Miguel. They didn't grab the best pictures of him, but this is more like what you would see of him every day. This one here, the last one. That's the one. The last one to the right. That would be, you know, what he looked like every day. But, I mean, the Charlie Project doesn't even have that much stuff on it. Missing since the 3rd, 2006 of September. Endangered missing, Portland, Maine. Hispanic, 24, 5'11", 170 pounds. He was wearing a gray and white camouflage print long sleeve shirt over a white long sleeve t-shirt. Dark green cargo shorts and sneakers, which I told you guys earlier. Distinguishing characteristics: Hispanic male, black hair, brown eyes. Has tattoos on his right hand, his left arm, back of his neck, and on his back. He had tattoos everywhere. Like, they only clearly marked off a few. He resided in the Hyde Park area of Boston in 2006. He also resided in the Quincy area. I don't know why they don't have that in there, but whatever. His ex-girlfriend, with whom he was on friendly terms. Everything says ex-girlfriend. That's the funny part, too. Like, there was no ex. They weren't ex at the time. Well, that's why he was there. But everything says that. Send him money to take a bus to Portland, Maine. That's how she used to get there, unless she drove with me, to visit her on August 31st. Oliveras was last seen at his ex-girlfriend's workplace on September 3rd, 2006. She is an exotic dancer at the now-defunct Platinum Plus nightclub on Riverside Street. Oliveras was asked to leave as he was encouraging men from tipping his friend. He walked out of the club without incident and was last seen in the parking lot at 1 a.m., accompanied by an unidentified Caucasian male. It's literally all we know about that person. Oliveras has a troubled past and some run-ins with the law. Investigators theorize someone from Boston caused his disappearance. Now, this is where that stupid rumor, right? Like, but back in 2006, say you robbed someone for a cell phone or, money or whatever. Back in 2006, there was not really a great way to track that. So I don't know why they say they think someone from Boston, because he was in Portland, Maine, and there wasn't like a ton of people there that were from Boston. So I don't know where they get that theory. I'd love to like pick their brain on why they think that, but I'm probably never going to get that answer until this case is closed. Says he's the father of 2 children. His loved one stated he kept in daily touch with his mother. He did, and it's uncharacteristic of him to leave without warning. Oliveras' ex-girlfriend has been cooperative in the investigation and passed a polygraph. His case remains unsolved. Last updated May 2016, distinguishing characteristics, clothing, jewelry, description updated. Like, and there's just been nothing since. Nothing. Like, nothing at all. Yeah, I'm not going to address stupid people. Why don't you ask Suzanne if she got a message from the dispatcher that she gave it to? Why isn't she disclosing that to you guys? Just wondering. Because she did. So, there's that. And I'm not going to do negativity. So if you're here for that, see you later. But yeah. I mean, there are a lot of unsolved cases in every state. And if you look, it's kind of mind-blowing to look at how many unsolved missing persons cases like there are. Like, but yeah, I was responding to comments on YouTube. God, no. Always, unfortunately. People don't know when to. All right, hold on. Let me get this down here. It's like cold in here now. I have the window open, but it was like it's too hot in here. People's texts keep disappearing, and I've explained this about a billion times, and I'll explain it again. Because if they're going to come in here to be negative, they're going to get booted. And so their text go with them. That's how it works. I'm not going to deal with it tonight. You want to do that? You can go somewhere else and do it. Not doing it here. I'll show you guys something. It's a website. Where is it? 19 unidentified human remains as of March 1st, 2023 in Massachusetts. Let's see. If it pulls up, let me see. Oh, hold on. All right. Shut this down. Oh. So, yeah. No, not you. Not you, Nanny. I know. I need the damn second screen. It's obnoxious, I'll tell you. Yeah. Mickey's mom was devastated. She is. Not was, is. I mean, the owner of the strip club was mob connected and Shirley believes he or his cronies are responsible. I've never heard that also, but I haven't, talked to Mickey's mom. I only actually ever met Myrna one time. But that's interesting. I mean, I want to know why the cops think it was someone from Boston, though. Like, I want to know why that is. Like, but I mean, like, why would you think it was someone from Boston when he went missing in Portland? Like, that's weird. Like, that's strange. That's absolutely strange. Like, if he was in Portland at the time, why would you think it was someone from Boston? Like, he was only there to visit the girlfriend. And I mean, yeah, there are people from Boston and Portland. Of course there are. But, it's just weird. Like, why would you think Miguel, again, the rumor was that he had, like, robbed some Jamaican guys or something, for cell phone and something. But again, he didn't have a cell phone when he went missing. So I don't think there's any truth to that rumor. Again, the rumor was also that he left with someone from the kitchen, like a cook or a sous chef, probably like a sous chef or a busboy, because the cooks don't usually just bounce. I mean, to be fair, they do stop serving like food at a certain time, but that club stayed open until 6 a.m. And so that leads me to believe that if it was someone from the kitchen, that it would have been like a busboy or a sous chef or like a food runner, something of that sort. But I don't know. It's very strange. Again, there's not a ton on Mickey's case. Like, Mickey's case bugs me because it's my friend, A, and B, because he still has not been found. 2006. We're talking about 2006. That's a long freaking time. Like, a long freaking time. And you'd think, like, yes, there's a ton of, woods. That's the thing. Like, there's a ton of woods. There's just a ton of woods out there. But I mean, you have to think about how many people probably have never been found out there in Maine, you know? But it is what it is. Do you guys remember, what was the name of that girl? I forget the name of the girl, but they found when a guy died, it was like a father, I think, and they found his daughter, I think it was, in the shed, or was it his daughter that found missing person in the shed? Either way, there was like a body found in like a shed in Maine after someone had died. And that was I want to say a couple years ago, but that was in Maine. And I remember when like the headlines for that were coming out, I was like, oh God, like maybe it's Mickey, maybe they finally found him. No, it wasn't. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed. Like, and then there was another one that they found, a man's body somewhere in Maine, and that's another thing. I thought that would have been him too, and obviously when I looked into it, it was not. So that kind of sucked. And then when I found out they were looking in the reservoir, I was like, oh, sweet. Like, maybe they got some information and they'll find him, right? And they didn't. And that was another letdown. Like, it sucked. Like, it sucked. I just want them to have something, like anything, something or anything. Like, they didn't. I'm hoping that someone from Maine, someone from Portland, Maine, remembers him leaving, or saw him in the parking lot, or thinks there's some little detail they remember about that night that they never, ever, 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 ever thought would make a difference. Because it's just sometimes those little teensy, weensy, tiny details that actually do make a difference. Like, that actually do, like, solve a missing person or any other crime. Like, I know people don't always think that, but, that's how it works. Like, in a lot of cases, like, the most minute detail from somebody, coming and saying something has solved a crime. It's led to bigger things. But this says, as of March, and this was the governor eyeing a statewide missing people unit, which is what I was talking about earlier. I feel like they should have those, but it says, as of March 1st, 2023, Massachusetts law enforcement had reported to the FBI's National Crime Information Center a total of 1,927 active cases. including 1,908 missing people and 19 unidentified human remains. 19 unidentified human remains. Like, to have a checklist and protocols would only help, said Thomas Fowler, chief of the Salisbury Police Department and president of the Mass Chief of Police Association. At the end of 2022, the FBI's National Crime Information Center had 97,127 active missing people cases. About 41% were children and juveniles under the age of 21. That is terrible. Of the cases, 52,243 were white, 30,285 were black, 2,154 were Asian, and 1,593 were Indian, and 10,852 were of unknown racial background. A total of 43,096 were identified as female, and 54,016 were male. Other states have taken steps to enhance their missing person investigations. Montana and Washington have created systems for addressing the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people. And a bill in Nevada would make it easier for reports of missing Indigenous people to be shared with the police. Legislation in Georgia would mandate a cold case unit under the state's Bureau of Investigations. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, they should have at least a cold case unit, or cold case missing persons unit, like something to dig up these, like, so they don't just sit there. Like, maybe new eyes will help. Maybe somebody notices something someone else didn't. Like, that happens all the time. Like, last year, a federal commission was tasked with improving how the government addresses a decades-long crisis of missing and murdered Native Americans and Alaska Natives. Like, I think Alaska is probably a hard place too, because, you know, all the snow and everything there. Like, that, I think, is hard. Like, I mean, there's a lot of woods in Alaska, just like there is in Maine. So, like, yeah, I think that'd be difficult to find people. Like, and especially because of the way it, like, all the snow there and everything. Like, I think that, I mean, yeah, there's snow in Maine too, but obviously Alaska's a little different. It's on a whole nother level. But I think absolutely 100% they should have these cold case units. They should have these damn cold case units, and they should have these missing persons units. Like, that's absolutely what should happen. Maybe they could find people like Miguel and Sandra. Like, he was 24 years old. His family misses him. His kids miss him. His friends miss him. Like, Mickey was a one-of-a-kind person, dude. Like, with a one-of-a-kind personality. And just to know what happened to him. Like, just to know. And again, I hate using that damn word closure, because there's no closure, right? There's no closure. But knowing is better than not knowing, in my book. At least knowing what happened, or having some idea about what happened, is better than not knowing, in my book. So, you know, it is what it is. I just wish that someone who knows something would come forward, because he didn't just go missing by himself. I mean, yeah, he is presumed dead. He's been missing since 2006. And he's not been seen since that day, since he walked out of that club with that guy. And again, that guy knows what happened, right? Like, wherever they went or whoever they met up with, one of those people must know what happened. Like, maybe somebody saw them walking down the street that night. Maybe somebody saw them, like, cut down a path. Like, I know it's going to be hard to get anybody to say anything in, you know, I've never heard of the mob tie thing. Nope. I know Mickey because he was my roommate. He dated my roommate and he lived there. Yeah, I never heard that one, mob ties. But that, again, that might be something just the family talks about that I don't know about with the police. I mean, a lot of strip clubs are owned by mob-tied people, to be fair. Rhode Island has some. Rhode Island has a few. There's a lot of mob ties in Rhode Island still, though. New York, obviously. But no, I never heard that. I heard that the police's theory was that it was someone from here. And that's written everywhere still, that was their theory. Obviously, back then, that was their theory. But I've never heard another theory of what they thought other than the rumor of the robbery. So, Yeah. I mean, I feel terrible for her. I feel terrible. Yes, exactly. They could at least start the grieving process. Like, you know, there's the answers that they don't have is what, like, it's a constant, like, it's a constant what if. Like, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if I didn't? What if I told him not to go? What if I, you know what I mean? Like, it's a constant what if. Like, back when she was calling the PDF. Yeah, I think also I heard that it was really hard for her to get the help that she needed when it came to him being missing. And I think again that was because A, he's not white, he's not a white little girl. You know what I mean? If he was a white girl or a little girl, like this would have been plastered all over the country when he went missing. Like, and I heard she was getting a hard time getting people to help her. And it's like, okay, I get it. He had an on again, off again drug problem. So what? That doesn't make him a person. He's not a person. Like he's a person. He's a person with family and children. And yeah, that's what I heard, that the police were just dicking her around basically. Like, and so like the police here basically told her that the police up there have to do it. And I mean, this is just what I heard. Obviously, I had no idea if that's actually what happened, but that is what I heard, that the police here were telling her like the police there have to do it. And like, okay, well, he was from here. Like, well, I mean, that's what they assume basically. Like they're going to assume that he just, overdosed and died somewhere. No, he left with someone. So someone knows what happened to him. Someone. And I don't believe he overdosed. Because if he did, don't you think they would just leave him somewhere, or like he could be found, or like, you know what I mean? Like if he did, you didn't help him and then you helped cover it up, which that would be a crime. Like if he did, you didn't call 911 to get him help. Like, what kind of person does that? Like, wouldn't you call 911 to get him help? Like, but yeah, that's basically what they were probably assuming, is like, oh, well, he'll come back. He's a transient. He's probably just on a binge. Like, no, no, no. He called his mother every day, no matter what. Like, no matter what. Yeah, wasn't their jurisdiction. That's what I thought. No, he didn't get picked up. He walked out of the club with a guy. And the video is extremely grainy because, like I said, back then, I know you weren't here earlier, but back then, inside that club, what they had for security was this little black and white televisions, like, the old, like, boob tube ones, like, and the screen was probably not much bigger than this. And it was split into 4 screens. And the outside, was on one screen. And then they had, the other 3 with whatever other spaces. It was like inside the door area, but you could only see like the back of people. So when they released the little bit of photo that they do, a little bit of video they do have, you really can't see anything. It's bad quality. It's sort of grainy. Like, again, it was 2006. So there's not this like, level of tech that we have now. And he didn't have a cell phone. So there's no way to like track him on a cellular device. Like, even if they could find it bouncing off towers at that point, he didn't have a cell phone. So there was nowhere to look in with a cell phone, that tattoo though, like that tattoo, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes people will like say like, "Hey, I'll get it for you," and then like she would just give the money later on, like if they're gonna go back there. Like, I don't know. That's, I mean, it happens. Like, but again, I mean, people did know him up there because he had been up there so many times with her. But I mean, the rumor was that he had left with someone from the kitchen. Like, I don't know if that was like, like I said, a busboy or like whatever, but that was like part of and I'm like, okay, well, if someone knew that, and I didn't hear that until like, 2 or 3 years later. And I'm like, well, if someone knew that then, why the they not say anything? Like, why wait like, to say anything? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, someone knows what happened to Mickey, bottom line. Someone. Like, and I, for one, would like to know what happened to my friend. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, you know, his mom has like been the ultimate cheerleader for him, 100%. And always will be, because she needs to know where her son is. Like, I feel for her. She needs to know what the hell happened to Mickey. And that's why I say, like, if anyone saw him, it'd be real easy to pick him out if you could remember like his tattoo. Like, there was a reservoir they checked. There was a reservoir they checked over this summer, actually, this past summer. Or or spring or summer. It was just a few weeks ago. No, the girlfriend had been up there with him a bunch of times. Right, you can't see. It was Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club. It doesn't exist anymore, but back then it did exist, and it was a big building, and Platinum Plus was connected to, believe it or not, a topless donut shop. And the Gentlemen's Club closed at 6 a.m., and then the donut shop opened up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m., whatever it was. But again, the problem with strip clubs is it's not the same as like a regular job where everybody uses their real first and last name. Everyone uses a fake name so that people don't stalk you, harass you, follow you home, all that stuff. So a lot of people use fake names. So God knows, who they were paying under the table at that time, who was working there, or whatever else, Yeah, Portland, Maine. It was called Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club. Back then. It's defunct now. It doesn't exist. But the body of water that they did check, I think, was like a reservoir or something. I Google it every so often to see, if they found him, if there's anything, and there's never anything. And then to my surprise, this past summer, I think it was the beginning of the summer sometime, that I Googled it, and it popped up an article that had come out like a month or two prior that said that they were looking in some body of water, quarry or a reservoir, something like that, that was a couple miles or a mile and a half or whatever it was away from Platinum Plus, where he was last seen. So they said they found nothing. So that was kind of disappointing. I wish they would have found something, Yeah, it was a strip club. That's kind of the problem, with tracking people down. Like, not the easiest place to track people down, unfortunately. It is what it is. I just wish they would have done a better job. They would have jerked her around in the beginning too, because those minutes, those hours, they all matter. Like, she knew right away. His mom had to know right away. He checked in with his mom every day. So if he's not checking in, like, he was a mama's boy. Bottom line, Mickey was a mama's boy. And he's very proud of it. You're going to check on his mom, make sure his mom is okay, make sure his brother's okay. He always did that. Always. And obviously when he didn't, she was like, hey, red flag, what the hell? Like, something's wrong here. Like, and, and called. But like, Boston is where he lived. Like, they could have at least helped her, make Portland be a little more cooperative in helping find him. Like, I get it. You guys thought he was just a transient. You would just come back. But if someone's missing and someone's telling you it's out of character for that person, doesn't matter whether he was an addict or not at any point in time. Just doesn't matter. He's still missing. He's still a human life. Does a human life not matter if they were an addict at the time that they went missing? I don't think so. I think it's still a human life that matters. Like, and I think that's why it's such a hard time with getting them to do a goddamn thing, or to do it quickly, at least when it came to Mickey. Also, again, he's not a white little girl. Like, he's a Spanish guy who was 24 years old at the time of his disappearance. Like, and the weirdest thing was, like, I didn't go up that weekend. That weekend, I wasn't going up there. Like, so I stayed home. And I don't remember why either. There was like a reason that I stayed home and didn't go up. I can't even remember what it was, but I didn't go up nonetheless. And then it happened. And I was like when I went up, I think like 2 weeks later, like the chatter, you try to hear like what happened. Like, all anyone would ever say is just like that they saw him in there and that he was asked to leave. That's it. Couldn't get any information from anybody about anything at all. And it's like, that's a little suspect too. Like, someone left here with him. And I doubt it was a customer. So that means it was either someone who worked there's friend, buddy, pal, boyfriend, whatever. It was someone new, obviously. Well, it's always going to be someone new, but you know what I mean. But again, the video is grainy. So try to, look at it and say, that's definitively, Joe Schmo or, Alex McGee. Like, you're not going to be able to from that video. The video is crap. It's absolute garbage. And it's like, yeah, it was 2006. It's going to be garbage. But you would think that a club that big with that much like high-end clients and that much like money rolling in, you would like, because for instance, they used like, you normally go to a strip club in Massachusetts and they give you like if you ask for it, they give you like a stack of like $1 bills. Well, in Maine, they gave $2 bills. $2 bills. They were $2 bills. So you get your change back, say, in $2 bills, and they only give you ones when they have to. So if it was $9, you'd get 2, 4, 6, 8 $2 bills and one $1 bill. That's how they gave change. That way, every money they spent, either with one of the girls dancing or whatever, would had to be a $2 tip at least. I mean, it's smart. I don't know how the hell they got so many $2 bills though. It's the only place I saw that many $2 bills. It's crazy. I mean, you can, if you have $2 bills, you can actually still use them. They're actually still currency and you can still use them. But I have one $2 bill from like a candle, I think, and it burned at $2. Like at the bottom, there was like a $2 bill. But that's what they used back then. But again, he had no cell phone. He had no way of like he used the hotel phone to call his mom and just check in. And he didn't, she bought him the ticket. He got on the bus, and that's how she got there too. Sometimes she took the bus or she drove with me, one or the other. Like those were the only two ways that she got up there. The bus ride wasn't that bad. I remember you're telling me like it wasn't ever. I never took the bus up. I always drove, but I remember her telling me like the bus ride wasn't that bad. And so she, he said he wanted to come out, and she was like, all right, I'd rather have some company anyway. Like, so she sent the money for the bus ticket so he could come. But I mean, again, he left that club and has never been seen again, and that was September 3rd of 2006. It's a long freaking time. Long time to go missing and have nothing and no leads. Like, I was really hopeful that when I read that article that they had a lead that he was, in that quarry or in that body of water of some sort, and he clearly was not. And that sucks. That sucks. That sucks bad. Like, but I mean, all we can do is continue to hope. And if someone knows something, I would urge you to call the Portland PD or the Maine State Police or even the Mass State Police. Or if you don't trust cops ever and you don't want to tell them, then you can tell me and I will tell them. Like, so rolling a joint, you go, girl. I don't smoke weed. I never will, but I would be like a paranoid mess, but you go, girl. You go, girl. But yes, right? 420 friendly. I don't know how you guys do it. I would be a freaking paranoid mess. But I'm exhausted. It's midnight. Oh, you did? How is she doing? Is she doing okay? Like, I mean, I hope she is. It's just awful. I just feel for her. Like, I just want to hug her. Like, I have to go back sometimes and watch the, interviews that they let her do. And, New England's Missing that she does, like, she tries to do yearly, if they let her, and watch all those. And it's like, damn. I feel terrible for her. I wish there was something more I could do. Like, she needs to know where her son is. Like, I need to know where my friend is. Like, he needs to be found. Someone knows something somewhere. So, I wish someone would come forward, and they can do that if someone happens to see this and is like, this jogs my memory. I remember that puppy chulo, tattoo he had on his back. Like, oh, that's good. That's so great. I'm glad. Her other son must be man now. I remember he was just kid still. I'm like kid. He was in like high school, but still, or middle school, but still. That's good to hear though, that she was doing great. It's good for her. She's a wicked nice lady, like wicked nice, really welcoming, really nice. Like, and she's the best advocate Mickey's got. Like, she's the best advocate. That's so good to hear though. That's great. It's awesome. I need to smoke. I'm paranoid without it. Yeah, I'd be like hiding in the closet or something. I can't smoke weed. Yeah, he's got to be. Yeah, he has to be I mean, and he's younger than me. And I was like very young at the time. So yeah, it's got to be around-ish 30 or so, maybe 31, but around that age, yeah. Wow, let's go fast, huh? Where does the time go? Oh yeah, I also want to address real quick before I end this. Courtney, who keeps telling people that she's known me for 20 years. No. You knew me when I was like 19 and 20. I've not seen you since then. So I'd appreciate if you would stop telling people you've been my friend for 20 years when you most certainly have not. That'd be great. Appreciate that. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, he was like 13 back then. You're right. Because I was only like, my God, 2004. I was just turned 18 at the end of 2004. So I was 20 in 2006. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. So sounds about right. Oh my God. Can you imagine all that time? Jesus. To think about it, you make me feel old. Makes me feel old. But yeah, he was just a kid back then. I can imagine that as like your brother, like as a kid, your brother goes missing. Like that's got to be just awful and terrible. Like awful and awful and terrible. I mean, it's already awful enough when it's someone you know and you care about, but it's probably got to be even more awful when it's like your son or your brother, your child, like that. I mean, I don't even want to imagine, but I can imagine how awful that would be. Like I don't think you ever imagine how terrible it is until you know someone that actually goes missing. And obviously that doesn't happen to everyone, right? Not everyone's going to know someone that literally disappeared into thin air. My problem is that like he's in Maine, at least, I think. You know, who knows? Maybe not, but like that's where he went missing, was Maine. Like, and there's too many woods for him to be able to check every inch of everywhere for him to be found. I just like really hope that like somebody accidentally finds him one day, or someone remembers something that they didn't before because I mentioned his tattoo. Like, I don't see his tattoo mentioned it anywhere in any of these things. It just like says like that he had tattoos on these things. It says like neck, back, right hand, left arm, like, and that's not even all the places he had them, but like, you know, it just says like the places he had them. Like it never mentions his Papi Chulo tattoo, which was across the top of his back there. Like it doesn't mention what the tattoos were. And that's a very distinctive tattoo. That's something that you would remember if you saw it, right? Like maybe that would have jogged someone's memory if the cops had said, you know, well, there was one distinctive tattoo that maybe you would remember. It kind of pops out at you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I kind of can't not. Like, so I feel like they could have done a little more to at least like back then to like, you know, jog people's minds to have this not go cold. Like had to entertain himself hanging out with everyone else's kid was like 8 or young. He was a very good kid. He was a very good kid. I picked him up many times in Hyde Park because she didn't drive. So me and her would go in my car and go. I had a little Hyundai back then. An accent. That's what I had back then. That was so long ago, but that's what I drove up to Portland too. Like that's what I drove up there. Like, but I remember that car. Oh my God. I remember that car. Oh, anybody else got questions about the case? If you want to rewind, you can go back to the select board meeting that we talked about earlier. But I'm going to take questions and comments on the case. If you want to support my channel and me and the work I do, you can do so on Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. A blue shit box that broke down. Yeah, mine was also a blue shit box. Thankfully, it didn't break down until like 2 years later or so, or maybe it was like a year later. But yeah, I had a little blue shit box myself. That's what the accent was. It was blue. He was in Maine because his girlfriend was working in Maine at the Platinum Plus Gentlemen's Club. I actually also worked at that gentleman's club. We lived here in Massachusetts, but there was no schedule there. So you could work anytime you wanted. So if I went up there for, 3 days on a weekend and made good money, I could come back and not have to work for a week, 2 weeks. Like, so that's what we would do. Go up, work for, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or whatever days, or, you stay for a couple days, you stay for a week, and then you go back home. So she went up, and then she must have talked to him on the phone at some point, I'm assuming. And he probably said, like, hey, I want to come up too. Like, I'm here by myself. And she sent him the money for the bus ticket. And he got, because that's how she got up there. And he got on the bus and went up to meet her. So he was staying in the hotel with her. Why he didn't go back to the hotel is the weird thing. Like, why? I don't know. He didn't go back to the hotel. Like, oh, I don't remember a Mastiff, but then again, I was never there too long. We were just really there to get Mickey. There was the one time that I actually even went in the house. Like, I think most of the time we just picked him up outside, but there was one time that I met Myrna when I went in the house. Most of the time I just pulled up out front and he came out, but yeah, that's why he was in Maine. But again, the Maine police kind of gave his mom sort of the runaround. Mass is like, it's not my jurisdiction, and Maine's kind of like, well, he's a Massachusetts resident. And I think that's where it was a cluster, kind of a cluster, unfortunately. Like, yes, she was in the club. The club asked him to leave because he was sort of discouraging people from tipping her. And so, they asked him to leave, and he left with this Caucasian male, and was never seen again. No, I didn't. I think I was in Maine that time, actually. I did hear about it, but no, I did not take him to the hospital that time. I did hear about that, though. It's like, how the hell did you manage that, dude? Like, the fuck did you manage that, dude? Like, if you knew him, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say, like, he was funny, he was kind, like, that's just who he was. Like, he was always goofing around, like, always a goof, like, always, just, like, cute one-liners, and, like, he just cared about people in general. Like, that was who he was. His kids especially, like, especially because he had a kid that was special needs like that. Like, he always communicated with his family. Always. Like, and that's clearly the tip off where, like, he's missing, like, he's not communicating with his family. Like, I heard too that I think his child's mom passed as well. So those kids don't have many parents. He did it on a dare. Oh my God. My God. Totally something. Someone so young. Like, we were young. We were so young back then. It's only 20. 20 years old, dude. That's it. Just 20. 20 years old. So young back then. Young and stupid. Made plenty of mistakes when I was young, dude. Just as everyone probably did. Can't believe he did that on a dare. That's a great story, though. Like, these are, like, I love to hear stuff like that. Not that he did that, because that's stupid. Come on, Mickey. What the hell? Like, but the stories about him, like, people that remember him. Like, it's always great to hear, like, someone knew him and that watches this. Like, it's, and I hope other people watch it that knew him, because that's who he was. He was just, like, kind of a goofy, bubbly, like, smile, like, that smile, dude. Like, oh, you always remember, like, his big, bright smile. Like, he could always make, even if you were pissed off, that was, like, when he was best at making you laugh, when you were, like, pissed off, like, when you were mad. Like, that was his best timing of being, like, getting you to smile, like, or you were upset. Like, that was the best. That was awesome. Like, he could always, like, snap you out of that, like, funk, like, just by being Mickey, by being Mickey, dude. Like, I remember one time he was, like, following me in the house around. I was so pissed off. I was just so mad. I forget what I was mad about. I was so freaking mad. And she just kept poking me in the shoulder. And I'm like, Mickey, stop it. He's like, but Elise. And I'm like, Mickey, dude, stop poking me in the shoulder. I'm already pissed off. He's like, Police. And you just get poking me in the shoulder. I'm like, dude, I'm going in the shower because you're pissing me off now. She won't stop poking me in the shoulder because I'm pissed off. And he's like, police. And I'm going to say, but I love you. Just you can't help but to just like laugh at him. Like, bro, just followed me around the entire apartment twice, poking my shoulder for that. You're a jerk. But like he knew it was going to make you laugh. Like he just knew it was going to snap you right out of the funk you were in, whatever you were pissed off about or whatever you were upset about. Like he just knew. Like, and that's why it's like it burns the hell out of me that they took as much time as they took to start looking for him. Like, because he was an addict. Like, I'm sorry. He was a human, a living, breathing human who had people who cared about him. Who gives a shit? Addicts don't just disappear all the time. Like, they still contact people. They still got to call people. Like, they don't all just disappear off and drop off the face of the earth without being seen or heard from. Most of the time, it's their loved ones. And he never did that. He always would at least call his mom. At least, at the very least. So it was like, that was a huge red flag. Like, it was her EpiPen. Oh my God. Mickey, you're such a clown, dude. Such a clown he was, dude. It just sucks, dude. Like, every time I think, like, they found something, you don't. And it's disappointing. Like, I keep tabs on Portland, Maine, and it's sad, but I have literally like a thing for notifications for Portland, Maine, police presence, remains, bodies. Like, I want an alert for that because, and I'm surprised too that the thing, I don't know if it was on my old phone and I didn't have the alert then or not because I got another phone, but I never got an alert for that article that they were looking in that body of water for him over it was either the spring or the summer. When I read the article was already like over a month old. So, but I was like, okay, maybe they'll find him, right? Like maybe this time they'll find something. Yeah, the train from my house. Maybe they'll find something. And they didn't, obviously, which sucks. But like I was hoping someone tipped them off to something. And they were like, okay, like we got good information. We're going to check here. I mean, I give them props. So the fact that they went out and checked, like, good for them. They went out and freaking checked. Like, some places be like, well, we're not checking until we have like, verifiable evidence that maybe he was there. Like, I don't know what evidence they got, although I'd love to be a fly on the wall to know what it was that they got that made them look there to begin with. Because someone had to have told them that. Like, they didn't get that out of nowhere. Like, and they tied it to him specifically. It's not like they were just looking for like a body or a remains or a search of someone. Like, they were looking for Mickey himself. So what was it that tipped you off that was the place you needed to look? Like, of course, they're not going to tell you while it's an active and open investigation, but it's like, shit, I just want the documents. Like, maybe other people can help if there's fresh eyes on it. Like, you just feel like you need to be useful, especially when someone is missing. I haven't, because it's an open, when I called, they said it's open and active and that they won't give me any documents. So I'm like, what's the point of doing a FOIA if they won't give me shit anyway, because it's open and active? I can try, though. I could try. I mean, it's worth a shot, I guess. FOIA is such a pain in the fucking ass. But it's worth a shot, dude. Like, Maine, a little bit different than here. They don't like giving you shit about shit over there, especially in Portland. They're fucking stingy. Small world for you to be talking about this case. I mean, and that it is a very small world. But to be fair, I believe in karma, and I also believe there's a reason, right? Like, there's a reason that you know him. There's a reason. There's a reason you were watching this and you know him. Now, maybe, do you know anybody in Maine? Do you know anybody in Portland? Yeah, I think I'm gonna try, because why not, right? Like, I mean, what's the worst? They can tell me no again. I haven't tried in a few years, so, to get docs. So why not? Might as well see what I can get. But I mean, it is a small world, right? Like, but I believe Maybe you're here because you can pass this along to someone else who knew him. Like, maybe. Oh, it lives right outside of it. I mean, I liked living in Portland. I'm not gonna lie. After a while, I moved up there for about 6 months. And it is very city-like in Portland. But if you go 15 minutes either way, it's you're back to like houses being like, a quarter mile apart or a mile apart, You don't know anyone up there. Damn it. Damn it. Well, I mean, you never know. Maybe you bump into someone like his mom again. And then maybe you can direct her here. Like, because I've looked for her on like Facebook and stuff. Can't find her. Cannot find her. Small world. But the least I can do is put it out there and see if someone knows something. At least I can do. Like, why not? Someone has to know something. Yeah, Portland's a fun place. Our harbor, like this is there's a lot of little places like near the water, a lot of little cute shops, and there's lots of stuff to do over in Portland. Again, I only lived there for a short period of time. It was like 6 months, I think, total. Otherwise, I used to just go back and forth from Quincy, driving up there for a few days at a time each time. And this hotel's right across the street that we used to be able to just rent the hotels, and we got a better rate because we're working across the street. And because so many people did that from coming out of state, that they just gave us like a better rate for multiple days. Oh, okay, I'm tired. Any other questions, comments about the case? Otherwise, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm tired. I need to go to bed. I gotta get up in like 5 hours to get my kid ready for school. Okay. No other questions, comments? Cool. Awesome. Great show, guys. I did. I had one back when I knew him. Just one. Just one. Before I had my other two kids. I had my oldest when I was 18. I only had one kid back then. All right. I love you guys. Faces. I will see you tomorrow night, 9:30, same time, same place. Meet you here. And that's pretty much it. So see you guys later. Bye-bye.